Chapter 2045. Since Miss Lang looks down on the Qilin team so much, I think there's no need to let Miss June and the team leader fight one-on-one. How about our Qilin team and Carefree team compete? Everyone turned around and saw the 9 members of the Kirin team swaggering in from outside the door. Among these 9 people, some were brimming with fighting spirit, some were brimming with anger, and some were filled with hatred. Xue Huailu, Su Yi, and Chu Yuanlei immediately rushed to Chu Tianyu and said excitedly, "Captain, are you really Yi Liangqin? Why didn't you tell us that you were going to slay the Dragon Ascension 6 roles?" Chu Tianyu struggled in his heart for a moment before finally concealing all the guilt and uneasiness. Nothing was more important than his life and his mother's safety. He was Yap Liangqin. Yes, he, Chu Tianyu, was the Lord of 6 Stars, the heir to the Medicine King, Yi Liangqin. Chu Tianyu put his hands behind his back, and said indifferently, "Apologies, I need the profound heaven pearl." Although Xue Huailu was unwilling, when he thought of Chu Tianyu's identity and his hatred for the Carefree squad, he immediately smiled and said, "Senior brother Chu must be joking. You are the captain of our Kirin squad and your strength is above ours. Becoming the Lord of 6 Stars is only natural." Su Yi's face was filled with flattery. "If someone else used me, Su Yi, to climb to the top of the Hiyu list, I would definitely not accept it. But only you, Captain, are worthy of the title." Even Chu Yuanlei and Duan Wenbin, who had always been unruly, showed reverence for Chu Tianyu. Duan Wenbin already knew that his captain was stronger than him. The only reason he was at the top of the 1,000 average list was because Chu Tianyu had no interest in slaughtering people. The members of the Kirin team congratulated Chu Tianyu one after another. They also felt honored. The fact that the Lord of 6 Stars was the captain of the Qilin squad was proof of how powerful they were. No one in the entire Purple Cloud realm or even the entire cultivation world could shake them. Murong Xue was the only one who looked confused. "Boss Chu, are you really Yi Liangqin?" Chu Tianyu smiled. "What? You don't believe me? Or do you think I'm not qualified?" "No." Murong Xue subconsciously shook her head. Everyone in the Kirin team acknowledged Chu Tianyu's strength. Since Chu Tianyu could become the unquestionable captain of the Kirin team, he naturally had his own beauty. Even though Murong Xue hated vile people like Xue Huailu and Su Yi, she still respected Chu Tianyu. However, she still feels that there's something wrong with this matter. Her gaze subconsciously turns towards Mayan. If she didn't hear wrongly, it was just outside the door. The woman said that she was Yap Liangqin. However, how could such a delicate young girl be Yi Liangqin, who had slaughtered all 6 lists and trampled all the geniuses of Dragon Ascension under her feet? Not even Murong Xue suspected Chu Tianyu, much less the other members of the Kirin squad. This made the instructors of Dragon Soaring Academy even more convinced that Chu Tianyu was Yi Liangqin. Chu Yuanlei walked up to Yun Ruhan and said in a booming voice, "Carefree team, I've watched your match against the Fusang team, and I respect your strength. But I, old Chu, will tell you the truth. With your performances, no matter which one of you wants to beat our boss Chu, you are still far from being able to do so." As he spoke, he turned to Mayan, and the trace of admiration in his eyes turned into disdain. "Not to mention, she's such a delicate little girl. It's not that I look down on women, and I'm not like those bastards from the Fusang team either. But in the cultivation world, the one with the biggest fist is the last word. Any other flowery words are nothing but nonsense." Chapter 2046. I advise you to admit your mistakes and leave this place as soon as possible. We, the Qilin team, will not bother with you. Otherwise. Yun Ruhan had yet to speak. Leng Yuma already sneered, "Otherwise what? You want to fight with us? Let's fight. You think we're afraid of your bullshit donkey riding team, horse riding team. That's right, what's the point of talking so much? Luo Yu also shouted loudly, if you want to fight, then fight. Whoever wins is Yi Liangqin. Fourth brother, Shao Qi. Yun Ruhan shouted with a headache, don't cause trouble, this is a decision that only little junior sister can make. No, I think it's pretty good. Mu Yan said slowly, don't many people think that even if we win the competition, we won't be able to dominate the Dear Cry banquet? They also said that the Qilin team will always be the uncrowned king of the Dear Cry banquet. Hee, in my opinion, it's time for someone else to sit on the throne of the uncrowned king. As soon as these words came out, not to mention Xue Huailu and the others who already hated the Carefree team. Even Duan Wenbin, Murong Xue and the others had burning eyes as they stared at Mu Yan aggressively. The members of the Carefree team did not show any weakness and stared back at him. Chu Tianyu slowly stood up straight. At this moment, he no longer had the dispiritedness, guilt, and gloom. What he had was the confidence, pride, and awe-inspiring domineeringness of a strong person. If you want to defeat our Qilin team, your Carefree team is still far from enough. Since you want to humiliate yourselves, then, in an hour, in Flying Dragon City, our two teams will fight it out. Chu Tianyu's gaze swept across the people of the Carefree sect and finally landed on Mu Yan. There are only 7 people in the Carefree team. Our Qilin team will not take advantage of you. You can choose 3 people from the participating teams, no need. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth slowly raised. A lazy, disdainful, and captivating smile slowly bloomed on her face, dazzling Chu Tianyu's mind and heart. To deal with your Qilin team, the Carefree 7, is enough. Purple Cloud Realm, Divine Elephant City. Hurry, let's go to Flying Dragon City, it will be too late. What's going on? Haven't you heard? The Carefree team is going to compete with the Qilin team. The performance of the Qilin team with the Yuanying stage teacher has been cancelled and changed to a life and death battle with the Carefree team, to compete for the title of the strongest person in the Dear Cry banquet. What? We can't miss such a grand occasion. Quick! Let's go now. The match between the Carefree team and the Qilin team was scheduled for an hour later. But in less than 15 minutes, the entire Divine Elephant City was empty. On the contrary, the stands of the Flying Dragon City were densely packed with people. Even if they couldn't enter the Flying Dragon City, they were still guarding the perimeter, unwilling to leave. Everyone knew that Qilin versus Xiaoyao, this would be the most exciting match of the Dear Cry banquet. If he missed this opportunity, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Between the Kirin team and the Carefree team, who do you think will obtain the final victory? Isn't that obvious? Of course it was the Qilin team. Senior brother Chu, senior brother Duan, and eldest Miss Murong, which one of them was not strong enough to fight against 10 people alone? The Qilin team, compared to the other teams participating in the Dear Cry banquet, is simply not on the same level. Do you really think that if the Carefree team defeated the other teams, they would really be able to win against the Qilin team? Stop joking. That's right, the Carefree team fought so hard against the Fusang team, and later lost to the Changing Moon team. But these two teams together are completely not a match for the Qilin team. Chapter 2047. I admit that the Carefree team is very strong, but to say that they can win against the Qilin team, this is absolutely impossible. What's more, don't forget, there are only 7 people in the Carefree team, and each of their cultivation bases is below the 3rd stage of Jindan, while the Carefree team has 4 peak Jindan, and the rest are all in the 8th and 9th stage of Jindan. In short, 90% of the people in the stands are not optimistic about the Carefree team. There's no other reason, the gap in strength is too big. But the performance of the Carefree team before is too good. Therefore, the supporters in the stands are not one-sided, there are also many people who are cheering for the Carefree team. It's different from the previous 8 high platforms, 8 flowers in the mirror. At this time, there is only a huge high platform left in the center of Flying Dragon City. On the high platform, there is still a small secret realm constructed by the flowers in the mirror. From the stands, one can clearly see the landscape of the jungle, lawn, and stream inside. And the seats on the high platform, in addition to the contestants of each team. There is also a large group of people, the dean and mentors of the Dragon Soaring Academy. Zhou Xiaoyu, the leader of the Heavens Pivot team, and Lu Jinheng, the leader of the Phoenix Sky King team, look around and swallow their saliva. Lu Jinheng murmurs, "Are the people of the Carefree team crazy? How could they go against the people of the Qilin team?" Zhou Xiaoyu is silent for a long time, then dryly says, You can't say that, can you? The strength of the Carefree team is also very strong." Lu Jinheng rolls his eyes. "Of course I know that the Carefree team is very strong, but do you understand that the Qilin team is a team that can tie with a nascent soul mentor? Otherwise, the Qilin team would not have been specially brought out for this time's chief competition. It's not easy for the Carefree team to beat the Fusang team. Do you really think they can win against the Qilin team? What's more, even with June Mayan, there are only 7 people in the Carefree team. Can they really win against the Qilin team, who are all in the late Jindan stage?" Lu Jinheng's words make the 2 participating teams of the Azure Blue Realm show dejected expressions. Although they also hope that the Carefree team will win, although they also don't want to boost other people's morale and diminish their own prestige. In the stands, even little Fatty Jing, Nalan Dongyun, and the other die-hard supporters of Mayan all reveal worried expressions. On the contrary, the supporters of the Kirin team and Chu Tianyu were in high spirits. The news that Chu Tianyu was Yi Liangqin, the great god Yi, spread like wildfire. In such a noisy, intense atmosphere, Qilin team and Carefree team, a total of 17 people, appeared in the center of Flying Dragon City. Murong Shui smiled and stared straight at Luoyu. She smiled gently and said, "Little brother, if I win the competition later, you'll accompany me for a day. If you win, how about I accompany you for a day?" Shui Huailu's arrogant face immediately revealed a venomous expression as he glared at Luoyu with murderous intent. Luoyu looked around and said blankly, "Sister. Where is my sister? Why don't I see her? I only saw an old auntie pretending to be young." Puchi. The people of the Xiaoyao sect laughed without giving them any face. Murong Shui was also angered to the point of leaning back, but she quickly put on a charming smile. Little brother Luoyu's mouth really makes this sister love and hate it at the same time. Why don't you let this sister block those sexy lips of yours later? This time, it was Luoyu's turn to blush, shameless. Murong Shui was tickled by his cute reaction and couldn't stop giggling. Chapter 2048. Her bright and beautiful appearance makes many of Miss Murong's supporters in the stand stare blankly. It also makes Shui Huailu gnash his teeth in hatred. Chu Tianyu doesn't pay attention to Murong Shui and Luoyu, but stares straight at Mayan. After a long time, he says in a hoarse voice, "I will use my strength to prove that I am Yi Liangqin." His words seemed to be swearing something to Mayan. It seemed like he was trying to convince himself. Mayan sneers, too lazy to talk nonsense with him. She directly turns around and enters the mirror gazing. Chu Tianyu closes his eyes, grits his teeth, and waves his hand, "Enter." The next moment, 17 figures appear in the mirror gazing. As soon as they enter the little secret realm, everyone feels a gust of wind blowing. Their clothes are fluttering, as if it can send people and nearby trees flying together. However, no one present was moved by this scene at all. Chu Tianyu says clearly, "June Mayan, I'll give your Carefree team one last chance. If you admit defeat now, this match will end immediately. Shui Huailu sneers, yeah, it's not too late to admit defeat now. Otherwise, your true colors will be revealed in a moment. The people of Azure Blue Realm will be pulled back to reality, knowing that such a trashy place can't produce any geniuses. Won't this make them sad and disappointed? Many people of the Qilin team show a relaxed smile. They admit that the carefree team are cultivation geniuses. But they are also geniuses. And there is a gap between geniuses. These days, everywhere in Dragon Soaring Academy is talking about the carefree team and Yiliangqin. They've almost forgotten about the Qilin team, and they don't put the Ziyun realm in their eyes at all. It's time to let these people see who is the real Heaven's Pride. Mayan raises her hand, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. She slowly sits down, and her slender fingers pluck the strings. I really wonder if your Qilin team is really strong, or if you only know how to shoot your mouth off. Ling Yuma raises the long blade in her hand, and casually carries it on her shoulder. She says clearly, a bunch of idiots, do you understand my junior sister's meaning? If you don't, this old lady will translate for you. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't fight, get lost. This merciless sentence made the faces of everyone in the Qilin team become extremely ugly. Chu Tianyu sneered, fine, I understand what you mean. In battle, our Kirin team has never been afraid of anyone. As soon as he finished speaking, he released his aura. The second layer of air-piercing field. Someone in the stands exclaimed. Even Zhou Daoi and the others who were sitting below were shocked. Air-piercing field domain is one of the rare field domains in the world. It's 100 times more difficult to cultivate than ordinary field domains. Tianyu actually broke through to the second level. As for the other members of the Kirin team, they seem to have received a sign from Chu Tianyu. Following that, his aura burst forth one after another. Duan Wenbin, Chu Yuanlei, Jin Zhonghao, Murong Shui, Zhu Chongliang, and Shui Huailu. There were a total of 10 people in the Qilin team, and 7 of them had activated their domains. Furthermore, Duan Wenbin and Murong Shui were both second-layer domains. At this moment, all the cultivators in the Flying Dragon City were no longer shocked, but overwhelmed with shock. In the entire cultivation continent, how many people had activated their domain before the age of 30? And how many people could cultivate to the second layer of their domain? In the Qilin team, 4 first-layer domains and 3 second-layer domains had suddenly appeared. Chapter 2049. Chu Tianyu's domain was the rarely seen, space-piercing domain. The Kirin team is too strong. As expected of the strongest team in the Purple Cloud realm. Oh, senior brother Chu, you're so cool. I love you. Team Qilin will win. The deafening noise rang in the ears of the members of Carefree Team. Mu Yan presses her ears, the corners of her mouth slowly raising into a disdainful smile. Isn't it just a domain? Do you think we don't? As soon as she finished speaking, an invisible and powerful energy suddenly burst out from her body. In an instant, the explosive domain of the Kirin team was suppressed. Astral domain, activated. In an instant, the noise in the audience seemed to have been forcibly stopped. The Dragon Soaring Academy mentors' joyful and proud smiles were still on their faces, but at this moment, they suddenly froze. Such a thick, powerful, and stable domain energy fluctuation. This was clearly a triple domain. But how was that possible? How old is Jun Mayan? Perhaps he wasn't even 20 years old, but he had already activated 3 domains, one higher than Chu Tianyu. At this moment, everyone was silent. Even Chu Tianyu and the other members of the Kirin squad were shocked. However, they did not know that the matter that shocked them to the point their jaws dropped was far from over. After Mu Yan activated the Star Field. Yun Ruhan was the first to activate the Sea of Mountains domain. Second stratum. Someone in the stand shrieked, Yun Ruhan's domain was only at the first level last time, but now it's at the second level. How could it be so fast? Ling Yuma stabbed her long blade into the ground, and the flame domain instantly exploded. It was the same level 2 domain, but it was several times thicker than when he fought against the Japanese team. Qin Jiu let out a roar and suddenly released the power domain. Ho! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Second domain. Another second domain. Oh my god, what kind of people are in Xiaoyao squad? Ling Yuxing slowly took a step forward. This was the first time that the absolute space domain was fully displayed on the stage of the Deer Cry banquet. The second layer of the absolute space domain was unique in the cultivation continent. Whoosh! The dean, deputy dean, and instructor of Dragon Ascension Academy stood up abruptly and stared at the young man on the stage. Space territory. It was the space domain. Furthermore, it was a second-layer space domain. This also meant that this young man had reached the peak of speed among cultivators of the same rank. No one could match up to him. There's actually someone who can activate a spatial domain. Zhou Daoi's voice trembled. It wasn't just the space domain. There was also the extremely rare Mountain Sea domain, the extremely ferocious Raging Flames domain, and the mutated power domain. Moreover, in this Deer Cry banquet, Jun Mayan is the only one who has activated the third domain. Even now, no one knew what kind of domain it was. Carefree team, carefree team. Who are you people? How could he gather so many monstrous geniuses? Did Elder Kong tell him not to provoke the carefree troop because he had already foreseen their identities? Gulp. Gulp. On the grandstand, many people began to swallow their saliva. 5. His voice was light as he said, 1 level 3 domain and 4 level 2 domain. They're even stronger than the Kirin team. Someone said dryly, but the Qilin team has 7 people who have activated their domains. It's still better than. Chapter 2050. The discussion had yet to die down. The last 2 members of the Carefree team, Luo Yu and Chu Moli, activated their domains simultaneously. Both of them had just activated their domains in the battle against the Fusang team, so they were still at the first level. Moreover, Luo Yu's mirror domain seemed to be the same as Mu Yan's star domain, and no one present recognized it. However, the immense power contained within it made everyone feel fearful. Even the people of the Carefree School only knew the name, Mirror Life, through Yun Ruhan. As for Chu Moli's domain, no one knew what it was called or what it was used for. But this did not hinder the shock and disbelief of everyone present. The Carefree team, a team of 7 people. Every one of them was a genius who had activated their domains. Moreover, 1 was at the 3rd level, 4 were at the 2nd level, and 2 were at the 1st level. The Carefree team and the Qilin team looked at the flowers in the mirror for the first time. In the first match, a contest of domains, the 10-man Qilin team could be said to have been completely defeated. After a moment of silence in the stands of Flying Dragon City, immediately, a small number of people erupted into fierce shouts. These were practitioners from the Azure Blue world. There were also die-hard supporters who had been attracted by the Carefree team recently. Before the start of the match, they really thought that the Carefree team was going to lose, and had no chance of winning. However, it was only now that they realized that the person they supported would never disappoint them. Xue Huailu and the others' faces were ashen. They had thought that by releasing their domains, they would be able to intimidate the Carefree team. Xue Huailu was even waiting to see Lan Luoyu, that pretty boy, lose his head in fright and flee in panic. But who knew that Lan Luoyu had also activated his domain? No, the 7 people of the Carefree team, all of them had activated their domains. The one with the worst expression in the Qilin team was definitely Sui. The Qilin team used to have 6 champions in the 6 lists of the Dragon Ascension. But among the 6 champions, only Sui had not activated his domain. But he mainly practiced control, and the domain of control was the most difficult to activate. Moreover, he was only 26 or 27 years old. Not being able to activate his domain was very normal. He had never felt that he was weaker than others. But now, among the 7 people of the Carefree team, even Yun Ruhan was a little younger than him. The youngest, Luo Yu and Mu Yen, are only around 20 years old. These people's domains were like a slap to his face. Chu Tianyo's expression was heavy, yet he didn't reveal any panic, and he said in a low voice, "All of you, keep your spirits up. The Carefree squad is not as easy to deal with as you think, but we, the Qilin squad, are not afraid of anyone." Huailu, support. Yes, Captain. Shui Huailu's expression turned serious. He raised his hands and gently waved them in the air. His spiritual power and the energy of his domain spread out together. Before long, white clouds began to appear in the sky. The air was also filled with thick fog. But this thick fog was actually light purple. The clouds condensed, and the pitter-patter of rain fell. But the strange thing was that even though he was looking at the flowers in the mirror, the howling wind and the continuous drizzle could not disperse the thick purple fog at all. When the raindrops landed on her body, Yun Ruhan frowned and said sternly, "Everyone be careful, there's something strange about this rain. It's not just the rain. There's something wrong with the fog as well. Be careful not to breathe it in." Shui Huailu laughed heartily. At this moment, the gloominess on his face had already turned into insolence. Chapter 2051. Only now did you realize. It's already too late. How could trash like you break the Shui family's ultimate support technique, the little art of cloud and rain? Almost as soon as Shui Huailu's voice fell, the Xiaoyao sect members felt their bodies become heavy after being tainted by the cloud and rain, and they couldn't unleash their speed to the limit. After inhaling the purple mist, they felt it even more difficult to breathe, and the circulation of their spiritual power was blocked. This was Team Qilin's #1 support. Shui Huailu naturally had his reasons for being able to top the Ganhua proclamation. Chu Tianyo's reaction was even faster, and he shouted, "Yuan Lei, Wenbin." "Roger, Captain." With Chu Tianyo's order, the 2 strongest people in Team Qilin, apart from him, immediately soared into the sky, and pounced in one direction. They didn't pounce towards Mu Yen, the strongest support, nor Yun Ruhan, the captain. Instead, it was Chu Moli, who was sitting in a wheelchair. The only long-range cultivator in Team Xiaoyao. Qin Zhou's eyes were crimson as he suddenly took a step forward, and shouted. A wall of earth rose in front of Chu Moli. At the same time, he soared into the sky himself, and a huge fist, mixed with a thunderous aura, suddenly blasted out. The power of this fist was fierce, and its might was so great that it caused the expressions of everyone in Flying Dragon City to faintly change. At this moment, the wild wind in the mirror seemed to stop blowing because of the ferocity of this fist. Even the dense mist that Shui Huailu released was scattered a little. Chu Yuanlei's eyes brightened, and he retreated instead of advancing. He shouted excitedly, "Good momentum, let me try you." Bang! The 2 men's fists collided with each other. The earth shook, and the trees in the distance creaked and fell down one after another. Many people on the grandstand gasped in shock. So strong. Too strong. I really didn't expect that Qin Zhou of Team Xiaoyao to have such strength. This was a true contest of strength, a contest of the density of spiritual power. Chu Yuanlei was able to sit at the top of the sky-splitting proclamation before Yi Liangchen appeared, which was enough to show how strong he was. If it was a true contest, even Duan Wenbin of Team Xiaoyao might not be his match. However, Qin Juku had truly withstood his attack. Xiaoyao team, how many more surprises are left for us? As it turned out, the surprise that Team Carefree could bring to everyone, or rather, shock, was far from over. Qin Jiu blocked Chu Yuanlei, but Duan Wenbin charged towards Chu Moli with unstoppable force. The long sword brought with it a pressure that could split mountains and split rocks as it slashed towards the sickly young man on the wheelchair. Chu Moli slowly raised his head. Facing the sword ray that resembled the scythe of the Grim Reaper, the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. The next moment, clang! A colorful sword blocked Duan Wenbin's attack. Yun Ruhan's expression was still gentle and modest, but the light in her eyes was firm and resolute. If you want to touch my junior brother, you'll have to ask the sword in my hand first. Duan Wenbin, your opponent is me. Duan Wenbin's pupils constricted in shock. What a vigorous aura, what a steady pressure. His eyes were burning with the desire and throbbing of a long-time opponent. Alright, then let me see if you have the qualifications to be my opponent. The swords of the two clashed again. The next moment, the boundless rolling mountain sea domain and the mountain-splitting lightning domain erupted at the same time. The entire flower-gazing mirror began to shake. The spectating cultivators with low cultivation even felt their consciousness and primordial spirits tremble. Chapter 2052. Chu Tianyo's gaze darkened. The Carefree squad was indeed very strong. Not just one of them, but all of them were ridiculously strong. But until now, Chu Tianyo's gaze fell on the beautiful girl who was pressing her fingers on the zither. Until now, the person who called himself Yi Liangchen still hadn't made a move. Hee, how can I miss out on such an exciting battle? Murong Shue's face flushed with excitement. As soon as she finished speaking, she soared into the air. The damask of cloud frost in her hand rolled like a snake, directly attacking Chu Moli's face. Chu Moli's lips curled into a bashful smile. Is everyone treating me as their target? Do they really think I'm so weak? His slender fingers lightly moved the armrest of the wheelchair, but he didn't move in the end. This was because Murong Shue was stopped by a long saber before she could reach Chu Moli. Leng Yuma soared into the air, flames raging under her feet, and the long saber on her back. Want to play? Want to find excitement? Sure. I'm bored too. I'll play with you. Murong Shue chuckled. You? I'm afraid you're no match for me. Leng Yuma's expression turned cold. Are you looking down on me? Murong Shue's smile became even more confident. How could that be? Who in Divine Elephant City doesn't know the Carefree Squad's blazing berserk blade Leng Yuma? If we fight head-on, I'm no match for you. But have you forgotten that I used to be at the top of the void list? What I'm good at isn't swords, nor close combat, but illusions. Before she could finish her sentence, the domain that had been faintly restrained was suddenly released. The void list tested a cultivator's divine sense, state of mind, and willpower. Those who were able to pass this test were naturally outstanding in this aspect. And Murong Shue was one of them. This was because her domain was created to construct illusions. Leng Yuma only felt her vision blur, and the surrounding scenery instantly changed. And the rain that originally only made her body feel slightly heavy now felt like heavy lead stones, binding her hands and feet. Even in her mind, complicated images began to appear. What's with that look? Who told you to look at me like that? Today, I'll beat you to death, you animal. I'll let you know the consequences of disobeying me. He, your mother died in my hands. You won't be able to escape from me either. Ling family. Everything is mine, Ling Yuma's eyes were scarlet red. Crazy killing intent and despair surged out from the depths of her soul. However, just as her spirit was on the verge of collapse, a melodious tune slowly drifted into her ears and seeped into her soul. It also caused the shackles and fog around her to slowly disperse. Ling Yuma's eyes were clear, and the long blade in her hand suddenly slashed out. With a clang, she cut off a section of the white silk that was aimed at her throat. Murong Shue's expression was one of shock. You actually dispelled my illusion so quickly. How was that possible? Ling Yuma wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and revealed a sinister smile. Create illusions and confuse the mind. My junior sister is here, and you want to play this trick with us. Have you forgotten who's currently ranked first on the void list? Murong Shue suddenly turned her head to look at the young girl sitting in the corner not far away with a stern expression. Yes, it was the young girl's zither that had dispelled her illusion. Chapter 2053. This girl called herself Yi Liangqin. She was the one who had defeated all 6 dragon ascension roles and replaced her at the top of the void role. Yi Liangqin. No. Murong Shue shook her head. What was wrong with her? Was she doubting her captain's words? Her captain never lied. If he said he was Yi Liangqin, then he must be Yi Liangqin. Murong Yan plucked at the strings and glanced at Shui Huailu with a faint smile. So this is the genius from the #1 support family in the Purple Cloud realm. If this is all the support of your Qilin team is capable of, then wait to be suppressed by our carefree team. Shui Huailu's expression turned ferocious when he heard this. The reason why the Shui family had such a status in the Purple Cloud realm's southern continent was because of the Shui family support skills. Many cultivators and sects in the Purple Cloud realm flocked to the Shui family's disciples. It was because of the Shui family's help that these cultivators could unleash their strongest abilities. Now, a naive little girl dared to question the achievements of the Shui family. Shui Huailu let out a shrill laugh and flipped his wrist. A blue fan suddenly appeared in his hand. This fan was called the Turning Cloud Fan. It was a superior level 9 spiritual weapon. Even in the Purple Cloud realm, a rank 9 spiritual artifact was extremely rare. Shui Huailu was a junior of the Shui family, yet he was able to use the Turning Cloud Fan. This showed how much importance the Shui family placed on him. As soon as the Turning Cloud Fan appeared, it expanded several times. The spiritual power in Shui Huailu's body and the power of his domain surged towards the Turning Cloud Fan. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. The veins on his face bulged from the exertion. But in his eyes, there was a sinister and venomous smile. Turning Cloud Fan, overturning Soul Rain. The Turning Cloud Fan wasn't just a simple competition. It was going to devour their primordial spirits bit by bit. Even if they took healing pills after the competition, they wouldn't be able to recover from the damage. Normally, Shui Huailu wouldn't use this special skill of the Shui family. Firstly, it would make him seem too sinister. Secondly, he had to pay a high price to use the Turning Cloud Fan. But now, he couldn't care less. Those bastards from the carefree team. That pretty boy tried to seduce Murong Shue. This woman in front of him completely disregarded him and the Shui family. How could he tolerate this? Die! Shui Huailu roared angrily as he waved the cloud-flipping fan in his hand. You brought this upon yourselves. Below the stage, the expressions of the few Long-Ting instructors changed drastically. The 3 venerables, Ri, Yu, and Xing, were even more shocked as they said, Soul-captivating rain, it's just a spar, but he actually used soul-captivating rain. Shui Huailu is too vicious. Although the audience couldn't see the power of the soul-subduing rain, at first glance, they all knew how powerful it was. However, when the cyan fan fanned, The clouds and rain in the sky had turned into a horrifying green color, and the dripping rain was no longer pitter-patter, but dense and continuous. And it became a huge drop, a drop. Every drop that fell to the ground made a sizzling sound in the mirror. That patch of grass and trees was actually corroded by a single drop of rain, forming a huge pit. Good, very good. I told you that great god Shui is the best support. What's a mere Ganhua rankings to him? But this is just a spar. Isn't it too much to use such a vicious technique? Chapter 2054. Since it's a competition, it's only natural to determine the victor. Humph, they could only blame the members of the Carefree Squad for overestimating themselves and provoking them. Especially that woman called June Mayan. Did she really think that she could be so arrogant just because she won a few rounds in the competition? Right now, God Shui is teaching them a lesson. In the stands, there was a lot of discussion because of this unforeseen event. The supporters of the Kirin team cheered loudly. The supporters of the Carefree Squad, on the other hand, had their hearts in their throats. Murong Shui turned to look at the cloud-flipping fan in Shui Huailu's hand and the azure rain clouds. Her expression changed drastically. Shui Huailu, what are you doing? This is just a spar in the Deer Cry Grand Banquet. You use the overturning soul rain, are you trying to put people to death? Shui Huailu's eyes were filled with madness. He laughed loudly. Murong Shui, didn't you say I was useless and that I liked that pretty boy? Now, I'll let you see who will be the one to suffer a crushing defeat in this competition. He waved the fan in his hand again. The corrosive raindrops that were falling from the sky suddenly seemed to be pulled by something. All of them whizzed towards Luo Yu. Luo Yu's expression changed. Even though he was far away, he could feel how terrifying the raindrops were. The spiritual energy in his body seemed to be attracted by something and was boiling, wanting to break through his meridians. The air was filled with a rancid smell that made people nauseous. Little 7. The people of the Xiao Yao sect all screamed. He wanted to rush over to help, but he was unable to do so. The Bao in Chu Moli's hand slowly appeared. Ling Yuxing's absolute space domain had already been completely released. However, at this moment, everyone heard a light and sweet-sounding voice. Don't move. Mayan presses her hands on the strings of the zither. She smiles disdainfully and her gaze is like a knife. If I can't even deal with this little bit of negative interference, then what kind of Carefree team's first support would I be? As soon as he finished speaking, the originally faint sound of the zither suddenly rang out like a powerful army. After hearing her voice, the Xiaoyao sect members, who were originally anxious and panicky, all calmed down. Even Luo Yu stood calmly on the spot, looking at Shui Huailu with disdain and ridicule. Idiot! Isn't she better than my 6th senior sister? Competing in support. I'll make you cry for your parents when I lose. That's not right. How could these people not cry for their parents when competing with their 6th senior sister? Voila! Just as this thought flashed through Falling Rain's mind, the corrosive green raindrops had already reached him. However, in the next moment, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared around him. When the cyan raindrops touched this barrier, not only were they unable to penetrate it, but they were also unable to penetrate it. Instead, it seemed to have been repelled by some great force and was sent flying in a certain direction. Ah! Shui Huailu's expression changed drastically, and his face was filled with terror. Because these blue raindrops were actually flying towards him. No one knew better than him how terrifying these raindrops were. Save! Save me! Save me! Jin Zhonghao, Shi Jingfeng, and the others from the Kirin team reacted quickly and blocked the attack. However, he was still a step too late. A few drops of blue rain fell on Shui Huailu's body. He immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. When his clothes came into contact with the raindrops, it burned a hole. His skin and flesh sizzled as they burned. However, the most painful thing was that his soul was being burned. It was as if someone had lit a fire in his brain, causing him to fall to the ground, rolling and wailing incessantly. Chapter 2055. This tragic scene makes everyone in the Cheelin team turn ashen. The match has just begun, and their team support has already been hit hard. Jin Zhonghao fiercely glares at Mu Yan. It's just a competition, aren't you being too ruthless? The burning of the primordial spirit is an irreversible injury, and Xue Huailu's strength is likely to never recover. Mu Yan sneers, giving him a taste of his own medicine. When Xue Huailu attacked Luoyu, these people didn't feel that he was ruthless. Now that their own support has been seriously injured, and he's jumping around, saying that it's just a competition. Hee, how can there be such a cheap thing in this world? Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a cold smile. However, since you say that I'm ruthless, I have to make this accusation a reality. The real reciprocity has only just begun. As soon as her voice falls, the sound of the zither in her hands suddenly changes. From a powerful army, it becomes melodious and sweet, full of sorrow. Looking at the flowers in the mirror, the Cheelin team shows a dazed expression for a moment. Even the cultivators in the stands are intoxicated by this beautiful music, as if they're surrounded by green mountains and clear waters, and fragrant flowers. A refreshing fragrance lingers at the tip of their noses. Soon after, everyone sees fluttering pink petals falling in the mirror. The petals are like snow, pink snow. As they fall to the ground, they slowly melt into the ground, disappearing without a trace. Some also slowly fall on the hair and shoulders of the Cheelin team members. For a moment, the originally tense battlefield seems to be filled with tenderness and sweetness. Chu Tianyu stares blankly at the zither-playing girl not far away. Her clothes are as white as snow, and the petals are like rain, setting off her beautiful appearance and white jade-like skin. She's like a fairy that has drifted down from the ninth heaven. So distant, so ethereal, and so soul-thirsty. Chu Tianyu's heart suddenly tightens. He absent-mindedly turns his head and looks at a petal that has fallen on his shoulder. Suddenly, his pupils constricted. His face changes greatly. Everyone, be careful of these petals. Mu Yan's movement of plucking the strings remains the same, leisurely and languid, but her mouth hooks up in a playful smile. Your reaction is fast, but you're still a step too late. As soon as her voice falls, her slender fingers suddenly move on the strings. Hum. A sharp tremor was accompanied by a series of explosions and screams. In the next moment, Jin Zhonghao, Shi Jingfeng, and Guo Zhenqing fell to the ground. Jin Zhonghao's domain had been broken, and he was unable to use it. Shi Jingfeng and Guo Zhenqing were covered in blood. Mu Yan shook her head regretfully. She had once used the improved version of Petal Shower's attack in Yanwu Continent when she attacked Jin Hongmen. Such an attack, coupled with floating like Dream, could catch the opponent off guard and deal a fatal blow. But that was only for the weak. The members of the Kirin team were too strong. Therefore, this attack only injured 3 people, and they were only superficial wounds. What a pity. While thinking like this, Mu Yan's hands changed the tune of the zither. Graceful feather, activated. From now on, it was time for her true support skills to be activated. Mu Yan is regretting here, but everyone in the stands is stupefied. Although the competition had just begun, the carefree team was completely suppressing the Kirin team. How was this possible? And that June Mayan. They already knew that this girl was the #1 support in the Dear Cry banquet. But that was based on the fact that the Kirin team was not participating. Chapter 2056. However, at this time, June Mayan makes her move. They know why the other members of the Carefree team are shining brilliantly, but the people of Azure Blue World always mention the strongest member of the Carefree team, June Mayan. Because this girl's support is really too strong. So strong that Shui Huailu doesn't have the slightest strength to fight back against her. In particular, when the graceful feather is launched, the originally evenly matched Qin Jiu and Chu Yuanlei, Yun Ruhan and Duan Wenbin, Ling Yuma and Wurong Shui, the battle begins to tilt in the Carefree team's favor. Shui Huailu suddenly coughs out a mouthful of blood and gets up from the ground. His eyes look at Mayan with mad resentment. He suddenly screams, "You, what are you still standing there for? Can't you tell who's the one who's controlling this battle? That slut is just an insignificant support. You still haven't killed him." Su Yi, Jin Zhonghao, Zhu Chongliang, did you hear that? Shui Huailu's words are very unpleasant, so unpleasant that Zhu Chongliang and the others frown in disgust. But his words were not wrong. At this point, they would be fools if they still couldn't tell who was the one who was controlling the outcome of the battle. Kill. They must first kill Mayan and expel her from the flower-gazing mirror. Otherwise, this match will really be in danger. Their Qilin team's reputation will also hit rock bottom. They look at each other and quickly soar into the sky, whistling towards Mayan. Only Jin Zhonghao stays where he is, a nine-jointed whip appearing in his hand. Only his nine-jointed whip is different from the others. When it is swung into the air, it actually separates into 9. With a crashing sound, a crack is opened in the air. Although Jin Zhonghao's domain has just been broken, in terms of fighting strength, he is second only to Duan Wenbin and Chu Yuanlei. Moreover, he is the only long-range cultivator in the Qilin team. The 9 whips in the sky are swinging up and down, making a snapping sound. The crack in the space is getting bigger and bigger, slowly turning into terrible lightning. These 9 lightning bolts contain the pressure of a strong person, and it really falls on a Jindan stage cultivator. It will definitely strike a mortal body until it is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. At this time, Mu Yan had just activated Graceful Feather, and did not have any spare energy to complete Divine Hands Weave the Heavens, in a short period of time. In the stands, the supporters of the Kirin team were seething. It's the 9th Heaven's Thunder. The 9th Heaven's Thunder has been activated. No one has ever been able to escape from God Jin's attack. Great God Jin's long-range attack is invincible. Jun Mayan is dead for sure this time. Jin Zhonghao's eyes were filled with determination and confidence. He was about to swing the whip in his hand. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically, and he took several steps back. Almost at the same time he retreated. An arrow whistled as it flew past his neck. Jin Zhonghao looked over and saw the weak-looking young man in the wheelchair opposite him. The young man gave him a gentle and shy smile and said, "Don't disturb junior sister from playing the guqin." The bow and arrow in his hand slowly disappeared. The action just now had made his face a little pale. The strong wind in the mystic realm also made him cough from time to time. No matter how one looked at him, he was a sickly young man who would be blown away by the wind. However, Jin Zhonghao stared at him with fear in his eyes. At that moment, he felt the threat of death. If he had lashed out with that whip, the one who would have died wouldn't have been Mayan, but him. Chapter 2057. The stands fell into a deathly silence, followed by a thunderous roar. Chu Moli. Chu Moli. So cool, Chu Moli. Silver Bow Godly Arrow Chu Moli, I like to see Great God Chu shoot arrows. 9th Heaven's Thunder Jin Zhonghao against Silver Bow Godly Arrow Chu Moli, who will win in the end? Jin Zhonghao touches his aching neck and takes a deep breath. He looks at Chu Moli with a burning gaze, his eyes overflowing with fighting spirit. The #1 long-range attack cultivator? This title is destined to be his. Jin Zhonghao's attack on Mayan is fruitless, but Su Yi and Zhu Chongliang's attacks have arrived. Especially Zhu Chongliang, he was originally the top of the Fushi list. His speed is so fast that when he attacks, there's only an afterimage left. However, his speed is fast, but someone's speed is faster than him. Bang! The two figures collide. Zhu Chongliang retreats a few steps, then suddenly stops. He looks at the youngster in front of him, his eyes bewildered. He was clearly the first to rush towards Mayan just now, but this youngster is the first to arrive. He directly intercepts his attack. Moreover, the shining silver needles are right in front of him. If he can't control his speed and charges forward, his throat would be pierced by the silver needles. That would be his final outcome. Ling Yuxing holds the absorbing magic needle, the binding silk gently fluttering as he says in a low voice, "If you want to make a move against little junior sister, you'll have to get past me first." Su Yi's attack speed isn't as fast as Zhu Chongliang and Jin Zhonghao. However, he has already prepared to attack as early as he's advancing. One after another, puppets appear around him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30. The people who were originally distracted by the other battles are stunned by the increasing number of puppets around him. Heavens, how many puppets are there already? 50. 60. The number of puppets is still increasing. Great God Su is truly worthy of being called Great God Su. Not just anyone can become the top of the Hiyu list. Did you forget that the current top of Hiyu list is Yi Liangqin? Even so, Su Yi is still the most powerful control cultivator after Yi Liangqin. Yes. The members of the Carefree Squad were really too stupid. They actually allowed Su Yi to release all of her puppets. Now, the number of enemies they had to face would increase by tens of times. Team Carefree will lose for sure. A proud smile appeared on Su Yi's face when he heard the exclamations from the audience. The grievance he felt when he had been slaughtered on the Hiyu list and his position at the top had been snatched away disappeared without a trace at this moment. Yap Liangqin. Yap Liangqin is nothing. In terms of controlling puppets, Su Yi was the strongest. It doesn't matter if Yi Liangqin is the captain or Jun Mayan. He, Su Yi, had to prove this point in front of everyone. That bunch of idiots like Xue Huailu and Murong Xue are completely suppressed by Mayan. Today, he, Su Yi, was the most dazzling superstar. 88 puppets of all sizes appear in the mountain forest, surrounding Mayan who is still playing the zither. The puppet's combat power was naturally not strong. But on an evenly matched battlefield, a low-level Anidia puppet could decide the outcome of the battle. What's more, there are 88 of them now. 88 puppets simply surrounded Mayan and Luoyu, who was the only one left behind Mayan. Chapter 2058. Su Yi laughed, using his divine sense to control the puppets to get closer. Jun Mayan, Lan Luoyu, it's not too late for you to admit defeat. Luoyu glanced at Mayan, who was still playing the zither, and turned to look at the puppets surrounding her. She asked innocently, "That's it? Just these few puppets?" The smile on Su Yi's face froze, anger flitting across his eyes, then he sneered, "Death is at hand, and you're still so stubborn. Or do you think that Murong Xue will come to save a pretty boy like you?" Luoyu let out a long sigh, then the corners of her lips rose as she said unhurriedly, "You can get first place on the Hiyu list by controlling these few puppets. It turns out that the young cultivators of the Ziyun realm are all so weak. No wonder 6th senior sister was able to slaughter all of your rankings so easily." Luoyu said the last sentence very softly. The people in the stands couldn't hear it, but Su Yi, who was watching flowers in the mirror, heard it. He could no longer maintain his arrogant smile, and a strong murderous intent emerged. Good. You're very stubborn. Let's see if you can still talk so big after being beaten up by my puppets. Su-yi hadn't finished speaking. Luoyu suddenly raised her finger in the air. At the same time, the mirror field was released to its greatest extent. In the blink of an eye, clattering puppets jumped down from the sky one after another. These puppets, including Su-yi's, had naturally been made and hidden in the storage space. But puppets were usually only the size of a fist in the storage space. Cultivators used their divine sense to activate the puppets, and then control their movements. That was how they became battle puppets that could assist in battle. But to activate hundreds of puppets, connect the sea of consciousness with the crystal nucleus in the puppets' bodies, and control their every movement, all took time. Su-yi had been preparing since he entered the mirror viewing flowers, and when he attacked Mayan, he had already prepared all 88 puppets. This speed was already extremely fast. It also represented how sharp his divine sense was, and how vast his sea of consciousness was. The people in the stands marveled at his strength, precisely because of this. But at this moment, the scene that appeared before them made everyone dumbfounded. Because, in the mirror viewing flowers, after Su-yi released the puppets, more puppets of various sizes began to appear. There were humanoid creatures, animal-shaped creatures, and even insect-shaped creatures so tiny that they were impossible to control. Moreover, the puppets that Su-yi released just now were released one by one at an extremely fast speed. In just a few dozen breaths, he had already released 88 of them. But now, Luoyu's puppets were released by the dozens. 20, 40, 70, gulp. Someone gulped. 100. However, the number of puppets was still increasing. 100, 130, 180, 200. The crowd shrieked like a groundhog. But the problem was that the number of puppets was still increasing. They surrounded Mu Yen and Luoyu who were inside. Outside, Su-yi's 88 puppets were also encircled. In an instant, the 88 puppets, which had been making a huge ruckus a moment ago, had no way to advance or retreat. All alone, he looked exceptionally miserable and pitiful. Su-yi's eyes widened as she stared at the scene in front of her in a daze. His voice was stuck in his throat, and he couldn't make another sound. Chapter 2059. Luoyu's smile became brighter and brighter. The dimples on her cheeks were faintly discernible. She was indescribably cute. What did you just say? Beaten by the puppets until they can't get up. May I ask who you are talking about? She looked at Su-yi in disbelief. Luoyu sneered. You want to compete with me on the number of puppets you can control? I, Shao-chi, have never been afraid of anyone. Yes, he only controlled 220 puppets now. But in reality, after he broke through to the Golden Core stage, if he wanted to, he could control 300 puppets without a problem. And right now, he was only at the Golden Core stage. Luoyu waved her hand and a fierce light flashed in her eyes. Destroy all these annoying puppets for me. With a command, the 200 puppets seemed to have a life of their own and rushed towards Su-yi's 88 puppets agilely. In reality, the cultivation of the puppets Su-yi controlled was higher than Luoyu's. After all, Su-yi was already at the 8th level of the Golden Core stage. But there were too many ants to kill an elephant. Su-yi desperately controlled the puppets to escape, but in a short period of 15 minutes, half of the puppets were destroyed. His sea of consciousness was also injured. After a moment of silence, the cultivators on the spectator stand immediately burst into an uproar. 200 puppets. How can someone control more than 200 puppets? This is too terrifying. What's more terrifying is that he is only at the Golden Core stage. For someone to have such a powerful divine sense at the Golden Core stage, when he reaches the nascent soul stage or the leaving body stage, how heaven-defying will he become? Oh my god! What kind of monsters are the Xiaoyao team? I thought they would definitely lose against the Qilin team. But now, they are completely suppressing the Qilin team. The ones who were more shocked were not the cultivators on the spectator stand, but Long Ting's instructor and Lan Feng. Zhou Daoi swallowed and looked at Lan Feng in shock. That is the mirror field. Lan Feng stared at Luo Yu for a long time before shaking his head. I don't know either. Even in the Lan royal family, the mirror field is only a legend. Was it really possible that it was the mirror field that could only be activated by the purest god's descendants? But if it wasn't for the mirror field, how could someone at the Golden Core stage control so many puppets? In the mirror, Luo Yu, who was chasing after Su Yi and beating a drowning dog, had no idea that someone had already guessed his domain. At this moment, an unbelievable scene appeared on the battlefield. The Qilin team, whose cultivation base was generally 5 small levels higher than the Carefree team, was actually completely suppressed by the other team. This was something that had never happened since the founding of the Dragon Soaring Academy and the establishment of the Kirin team. Chu Tianyo's hands, which were hanging by his side, slowly loosened and then clenched. In the next moment, a long sword appeared in his hand. The tall figure soared into the sky and stayed in midair. The powerful, space-piercing field was slowly released. The inconspicuous silver longsword in his hand began to emit a dark red glow. After that, he didn't do anything. Suddenly, a sword light flashed around him and slashed downwards. Boom! The first sword strike landed on the body of Wang Qin, who had already gained the upper hand. Qin Zhou abruptly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, and his entire person was sent flying. A huge wound appeared on his chest. The second slash was aimed at Yun Ruhan. Yun Ruhan's reaction was extremely fast, and she quickly raised her sword to block. However, the flowing light sword that belonged to Master Yin Xiu made a cracking sound and suddenly shattered. Chapter 2060. Yun Ruhan also flew back more than 10 meters, heavily falling to the ground. The third sword slashes towards Leng Yumo. A large pit suddenly appears on the ground. Half of Leng Yumo's body is buried in the pit, her face deathly pale. The fourth sword slashes, the wind howls. The hundreds of puppets controlled by Luo Yu explode with a loud bang, shattering into fragments and scattering everywhere. The stands are completely silent. In just a few short breaths, for short swords. Chu Tianyu only used 4 swords to completely reverse the good situation of the Carefree team. This is the strength of the Kirin team's captain. This is the #1 genius of Dragon Soaring Academy. Chu Tianyu. Brother Chu, I love you. Brother Chu is too handsome. Heavens, I'm going to faint. How could Brother Chu be so handsome? The Carefree team isn't weak at all, but Brother Chu is too strong. He alone can crush everyone. Someone stares at the dark red sword in Chu Tianyo's hand, breathing heavily. Can't you see? The sword in Brother Chu's hand is a divine weapon. I know, it's one of the few divine weapons in the Shuzhen continent, the Scarlet Flame Sword. Crushing strength, crushing godly weapon. At this moment, the Kirin team supporters finally let go of the boulder in their hearts. So what if the Carefree team is strong? As long as Brother Chu is here, the Kirin team will never lose. Chu Tianyu hovers in the air, looking down at the girl playing the zither below. His eyes darken, he says in a low voice, Shi Jingfeng, Guizhensheng, Su Yi, listen to my command. Don't worry about the others, attack Mayan with all your might, banish her from the mirror. Yes. Zhu Chongliang, Jin Zhonghao, Shui Huailu, hold off the others, don't let them destroy. Roger. Murong Shui, Chu Yuanlei, Duan Wenbin, take advantage of the victory to pursue and secure victory. Yes. Chu Tianyu takes a deep breath, his voice loud and clear, his eyes resolute and cold. Finish the match within a quarter of an hour, don't let down the prestige of our Kirin team. The eyes of the Kirin team suddenly blaze, shouting in unison, team name, captain. At this moment, the situation has reversed. From Team Carefree to suppressing Team Kirin. It became Team Qilin chasing after Team Carefree. Everyone could see that Team Carefree was in danger. And the most dangerous one is definitely June Mayan. This weak girl, the strongest support in the Dear Cry banquet, would be besieged by 3 experts until she was expelled from the flower in the mirror. What kind of desperate situation would the Carefree squad, which was already strapped for cash, face after losing this support? In the stands, a supporter from the Purple Cloud realm was so anxious that he was about to cry, "It's over, it's over." If June Mayan is eliminated, then the Carefree team will really lose. But there are too few people in the Carefree squad. No one can save her. The others can't even protect themselves. She's just a support. How could she block 3 attackers? However, after shouting for a long time, these people turned around and discovered that the people from the Azure Blue realm were calm. It could even be said to be leisurely and indifferent. What's wrong with you guys? Had he given up on himself? Why aren't you worried about the Carefree team at all? Hee hee. The cultivator from the Azure Blue realm replied with a mysterious smile, "Of course we're not worried. Soon, you'll know the reason. The support Zither player is the weakest. 3 attackers can get rid of June Mayan. Hee hee, you'll soon know how foolish and naive such thinking is." Chapter 2061. In the mirror, Murong Shui and the other 2 were forcing Ling Yuma and the others to retreat. Ling Yuxing and the others were also blocked and could not return to help. Shi Jingfeng, Guizhenqing, and Su Yi had already surrounded Mu Yan. Su Yi once again summoned more than 10 puppets. Shi Jingfeng and Guizhenqing did not seem to be famous, but they were both at the 8th and 9th level of the Golden Core stage. In terms of attack power, they were much stronger than Su Yi. At this time, the 3 tall figures were surrounded by the frail girl. No one believes that June Mayan can still escape and ascend to heaven. Go to hell. Shi Jingfeng roared. He suddenly raised his giant axe and fiercely chopped down in Mayan's direction. At the same time, Guizhenqing's meteor hammer. Su Yi's puppets also attacked. Boom! Rocks cracked, smoke and dust filled the air, and the sound of the zither stopped. In the stands, everyone held their breath. They were waiting for the girl's wounded body to slowly disappear. However, in the next moment, a pig's scream came from the smoke and dust. Then, there were a few bangs. One by one, tall bodies were kicked out along with blood splattering everywhere. While everyone was surprised, they saw a snow-like silver light shoot up to the sky. Hovering in the air, she looked at Chu Tianyu from afar. The girl with snow-like skin and fluttering white clothes held a crystal-clear sword in her hand. She pointed the sword at Chu Tianyu, and her mouth curved into a cold smile. Impersonating my identity and injuring my fellow apprentices, it's time to pay them back. Chu Tianyu. In an instant, the 3rd layer of the star domain erupted. A huge pressure was suddenly released, accompanied by the reverberating sound of the zither. Pft! Below, Shui Huailu and the others with the weakest cultivation spat out a mouthful of blood. The injured Shi Jingfeng and the others were about to get up, but now they knelt on the ground again, their knees could not stop trembling. Even Duan Wenbin and the others turned pale, faintly feeling that they could no longer use their spiritual power. On the contrary, the injuries of Lin Yuma and the others were slowly healing, and the spiritual power that they had used was gradually replenished. Feather Grace, completed. Echo Aura, completed. A 6th level Shin musician technique, as long as one spends enough time and spiritual power to prepare. The lingering effect of the skill would linger on the battlefield for a short period of time. There was a deathly silence in the stands. What happened just now? Someone murmured. Am I seeing things? Isn't June Mayan an auxiliary musician? She just used one move and sent Senior Shi and the others flying. With his early stage golden core cultivation, he can fly without a flying sword. Her domain, the triple domain, turns out it's not for support, but it's a powerful combat domain. Dreamy voices rang out from every corner of the stands. From the beginning, it was sporadic, but then, it suddenly exploded in the entire Flying Dragon City. Yes, the entire Flying Dragon City was boiling. What kind of monster is June Mayan? Strictly speaking, the cultivators of the cultivation world are divided into 2 main categories. One was the main combat type, and the other was the main refining type. The main combat type cultivators studied how to go on the battlefield and kill the enemy. And the main refining type cultivators mainly studied how to indirectly increase the strength of cultivators, such as alchemists, refiners, talisman formation masters, doctors, and so on. The main combat type cultivators were divided into 2 types, the combat type and the auxiliary type. Chapter 2062. In the Shuzhen continent, which is biased towards team combat, both combat and auxiliary cultivators are extremely valued. But these 2 kinds of cultivators, even if they are both combat type cultivators, their cultivation direction and methods are completely different. Especially the auxiliary cultivators of musicians. They have always been regarded as pure support, with no fighting power, and the weak who need to be protected. Correspondingly, the support ability of musicians is much stronger than that of other auxiliary cultivators. Therefore, when the people of Flying Dragon City saw Mayan's powerful support ability, they had already determined that she doesn't have any fighting power. But everything that just happened has completely subverted their understanding. A Zither master with a heaven-defying support ability killed 3 experts of the Qilin team in the blink of an eye. Are they really not seeing things? At this time, the cultivators of Azure Blue Realm, who have been waiting to watch a good show, finally let out a breath. They look at the cultivators of Purple Cloud Realm with an expression that says, "You mortals really haven't seen the world. Do you know what kind of achievements June Mayan has in our Azure Blue Realm?" An auxiliary Zither master directly beat the strongest team of our Azure Blue Realm Spirit and Martial Arts Academy without the power to fight back. Can you imagine? A weak girl at the peak of an idiot defeated the head of the 4th great family of our Azure Blue Realm, Tian Haiba, who is at the nascent soul stage. Can you believe it? The 6 Xiaoyao sons are all combat cultivators, and only June Mayan is a weak auxiliary cultivator, the only weakness of the Xiaoyao team. Really too stupid and too naive. The cultivators of Purple Cloud Realm look at the people of Azure Blue Realm with sluggish expressions. These low-grade cultivators, who were usually submissive and fearful whenever they saw them, were now looking at them with disdain. Then they tell them about June Mayan's terror and strength, spittle flying everywhere. In the end, they come to a conclusion almost in unison. Are the 7 Xiaoyao sons strong? Of course, all of them are very strong. But if you ask who is the strongest among the 7 Xiaoyao sons, then it is absolutely June Mayan. An auxiliary Zither master who can reverse the situation of a battle. At the same time, a terrifying sword cultivator with explosive fighting power. Have you ever seen such an evildoer in Purple Cloud Realm? Ha, a group of stupid mortals. Just wait for the demoness. Ah no, June Amosie's full display of strength to tremble in fear. Looking at flowers in the mirror. Chu Tianyu looked at the sword-wielding girl with a complicated expression. When she was playing the zither, she was delicate and beautiful. When she looked up, the green mountains were visible, and when she looked back, the sunset clouds were far away. She was like the crystal-clear snow on the Tian Shan mountain, ethereal and ethereal. But in the blink of an eye, the zither disappeared and the sword was unsheathed. In an instant, all the flowing wind, returning snow, and flower-like shadows disappeared. All that was left was the biting cold that had been tempered by the wind and snow. But Chu Tianyu only felt as if his heart was being fiercely gripped by something. Especially clear in the face of snow, even more beautiful in the frost. At this moment, the cold sword-wielding girl was extremely beautiful and dazzling. It was so dazzling that a sense of inferiority arose in his heart. Chu Tianyu shook his head abruptly, restrained his turbulent emotions, and concentrated his attention on the battlefield. He looks at the girl in front of him, and says in a low voice, "June Mayan, I don't want to be your enemy, but I must seize the mysterious heaven bead. Yap Liangchen is me, and only me. In this match, it would be better for us to stop here and consider it a draw. But from now on, no matter what compensation you want, I can give it to you." Chapter 2063. Mayan looks at him with a smile that isn't a smile. "I heard that if you tell too many lies, even you yourself will believe it to be true. I didn't believe that there would be such a brazen and self-deceiving person, but now I believe it. Chu Tianyu, do you want to go to the 1,000 average list and split sky list to take a look? The name Fuqin is still clearly ranked below Yi Liangchen. Where does this man get the face to say that Yi Liangchen can only be him?" Chu Tianyu sees the disdain in the girl's eyes, and his heart is filled with irritation and anger. June Mayan is looking down on him. Not only does she look down on his impersonation, she looks down on his strength even more. Chu Tianyu was able to crawl out of the hell-like place of the Dingwa Manor, which naturally proves his talent and excellence. No matter where he is the focus of attention, the object of admiration and admiration. He has never cared about those infatuations and admiration. But at this moment, this girl's disdain and contempt makes him burn with anger. "June Mayan, you should know very well that you are not my opponent." Chu Tianyu grits his teeth, "I just don't want to hurt you. Gold core first rank and peak gold core, that is the difference between heaven and earth. For heaven's prides like them, killing people above their level is a common occurrence. But between heaven's prides of the same level, the difference of one level can be a natural chasm." Chu Tianyu pauses and lowers his voice to a very low level. Except for Mayan, who is also in the sky, no one can hear him. The Dragon Ascension 6 lists will adjust the difficulty according to the cultivator's cultivation. Even if you can reach the top of the list, it doesn't mean that you can beat me. No, you are definitely not my opponent. His face shows a rare pleading. "June Mayan, I will say it again, I don't want to hurt you, but I must get the mysterious heaven bead." Mayan slightly frowns. Because she sees not only pleading in Chu Tianyu's eyes, but also madness that is close to despair. As if he doesn't get the mysterious heaven bead, he will sink into hell. But she quickly throws this thought to the back of her mind. Why Chu Tianyu wants to impersonate, why he wants to get the mysterious heaven bead, it has nothing to do with her. She only knows that she must get the mysterious heaven bead. Otherwise, how can she advance? How can she become stronger? How to protect something important? The 7 absolute sword in Mu Yan's hand spun in a circle, and the spiritual power and domain field around her suddenly expanded. At the same time, the sound of the zither hummed. Lotus Steps was activated. The girl's clothes fluttered in the strong wind and the flower in the mirror. Her black hair, which was like a waterfall, drew the outline of an ethereal dreamlike landscape painting, but it was also mixed with a biting chill. Chu Tianyu, you're blabbering so much nonsense. Even if you don't find it annoying, I find it annoying. I will still say the same thing. You can defeat me, and Team Qilin can defeat Team Carefree. Then you can talk to me about the ownership of the mysterious Heaven Pearl. Chu Tianyu takes a deep breath, the pleading and unbearable look in his eyes instantly turns into determination. Fine, Jun Mayan, you brought this upon yourself. From now on, I won't show any mercy. I will make the Carefree team suffer a crushing defeat. I will let everyone know that the Qilin team is the strongest team in the Deer Cry banquet. As soon as he finished speaking, he completely released the space-breaking field. Immediately after, the raging flame sword soars into the sky, turning into countless sparks, ruthlessly chopping down in Mayan's direction. The power of this sword was several times stronger than the one Chu Tianyu had just used on Yun Ruhan and the others. Chapter 2064. Blotting out the sky and covering the earth, the mountain rocks cracked, and the flower in the mirror shook violently. Everyone in the stands revealed a shocked and aghast expression. Under the raging sword, the girl in white appeared so weak, as if she would be cut into several pieces at any time. This is Chu Tianyu's piercing sky flame cut. Like raging lava, it cuts through the void, and wherever it goes, everything is destroyed. Once the bow is drawn, there is no turning back. Once the sword is drawn, there is bound to be waves of killing intent, making people unable to avoid it. The supporters of the Carefree team all suck in a breath of cold air, their faces pale, and they want to scream for her to quickly dodge. But they find that under such monstrous killing intent of the sword, their voices seem to be stuck in their throats, unable to be released. However, the next moment, a scene that makes everyone dumbfounded happens. Just when everyone thinks that the piercing sky flame cut will tear Jun Mayan to pieces, or make her flee in embarrassment. That girl, like a small boat in a stormy sea, unexpectedly doesn't dodge or evade. She suddenly leaps into the air, directly facing the monstrous sword light. Boom! There is a loud noise, and the entire flower in the mirror shakes violently. Gorgeous colorful rays of light explode in the air, like the most dazzling fireworks. The powerful pressure and spiritual power that overflows from the small secret realm makes many people in the stands directly overturn to the ground, their faces pale and trembling. Even the mentors of the Dragon Soaring Academy are horrified, their eyes full of disbelief. Their eyes are fixed on the two figures fighting in the air and the flower in the mirror. In just a few breaths, they have already exchanged dozens of moves. Every move is filled with killing intent, only advancing and not retreating. Every move is like a stormy sea, as if it can directly split the world in the small secret realm. The vice heads' mouths open for a long time before they murmur, Jun Mayan can actually contend with Chu Tianyu head-on. Yes, everyone thought that Jun Mayan would choose to avoid the sharp edge, and then use auxiliary skills to entangle Chu Tianyu, and finally use a surprise strategy to win. Just now, Jun Mayan's zither sound created an invisible rebound barrier, making people believe that she has such an ability. In addition, Jun Mayan's zither sound can infinitely replenish her own spiritual power, but it can also accelerate the consumption of the opponent's spiritual power. It wasn't impossible to slowly grind Chu Tianyu to death by delaying the fight. This was a combat method that most support-type cultivators would use. However, no one would have thought that such a delicate and beautiful girl, a girl who looked so delicate that a gust of wind could blow her away, would actually be so beautiful. He didn't even think of fighting Chu Tianyu from the start. If she wanted to win, she had to win fair and square, without any tricks. She wanted to tell everyone that she was Yi Liangqin. Qi Ri murmured, his voice hoarse. She's using this method to tell us that she's the Lord of 6 stars. She's Yi Liangqin. Apart from Yap Liangqin, who else could have such a powerful assisting ability and such a powerful fighting ability? Other than Yap Liangqin, who else could fight against a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core Realm at the first stage of the Golden Core Realm and not be at a disadvantage? Qi Ri's words were like a giant bell that smashed into the chests of the instructors of the Soaring Dragon sect. Zhou Daoyi, the vice deans, and the others fell into deep thought. Yu Tsuanjian and Elder Song, on the other hand, looked livid. Watching flowers in the mirror. Yun Ruhan and the others who were fighting suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. The sense of danger made them numb all over. Then, they felt a sword light coming straight down from the sky. Chapter 2065. If it weren't for Yun Ruhan and Duan Wenbin's quick reflexes and evasion, the sword aura would have cut the two of them into pieces. The same thing happened to Qin Zhou, Leng Yuma, and the others. Luo Yu was the most miserable. He was controlling the puppet to fight against Su Yi, Shi Jingfeng, and the others. Caught off guard, the sword radiance fell, and rocks flew everywhere, directly cutting two of his puppets to death. Of course, Su Yi was in an even worse state. The 7 or 8 puppets that he had just summoned were directly smashed into pieces. He was also thrown to the ground by the sword Qi and spat out a mouthful of blood. Luo Yu looked at the crack in the ground and patted her chest with lingering fear. Seeing Ling Yuxing, who was also hiding over here, Luo Yu couldn't help but say, "Sixth senior sister, and that Chu Tianyou's fight is a bit too intense. Why does it look like he's going to tear down the whole mirror?" The corner of Ling Yuxing's mouth twitched. "I don't think so." The next moment, with a loud bang, a whirlwind-like energy ball smashed towards the ground. Everyone's expression changed, and they roared, "Run!" They scattered in all directions. In the next moment, it felt as if the entire flower viewing mirror was shaking. Countless giant trees were uprooted and thrown into the air. Slowly, the smoke and dust settled. Luo Yu and Ling Yuxing looked at the huge crater on the ground and looked at each other. He really tore it down. This pit took up more than half of the area in the flowers and the mirror. The forest and plains had disappeared without a trace. Under the exposed ground, one could see the scattered and condensed energy bodies. The flower in the mirror was really going to be torn apart. Too scary. Many people on the grandstand swallowed their saliva, their eyes filled with shock. I know that senior brother Chu is strong. He's been invincible in the Soaring Dragon for so many years, but Jun Mayan, why is Jun Mayan so strong? Isn't she supposed to support the zither player? This thought flashed through everyone's mind. Yes. Isn't Jun Mayan the assistant zither master? How could an auxiliary zither player be able to fight head-on with senior brother Chu and be locked in a stalemate? Was there really such an omnipotent person in this world? His support was heaven-defying, and even his battle prowess was unshakable. No, in this world, there is still one person who can do this. Among the Azure Blue Realm cultivators, someone suddenly said softly. The Lord of Azure Cloud, the Lord of Golden Heavenly Light, the Lord of 6 Stars, the Medicine King's successor. There is only one person in the world who is omnipotent and capable of everything. This person, no matter what he does, I will not be surprised, I will not doubt. Because there were no more kings under God Yi. There was dead silence. After a long time, someone stuttered, You mean, Jun Mayan is Yap Liangqin? No way. Didn't they say that brother Chu is Yi Liangqin? However, senior brother Chu is indeed not as good as Yi Liangqin. Senior brother Chu doesn't know how to assist at all. The Azure Blue Realm cultivator who had just spoken fell silent. However, this kind of speculation was also planted in everyone's heart. Who was Yap Liangqin? The instructors of the Soaring Dragon didn't even have time to think about this question. They hurriedly channeled their spiritual energy into the flower in the mirror to stabilize the small mysterious realm. No one expected that the battle between two Golden Core Realm students would almost destroy the treasure of the Soaring Dragon sect, Flower in the Mirror. At this time, the battle between Chu Tianyu and Mayan had also reached the most critical moment. Chapter 2066. In the sky, the two people standing far away from each other appeared pale, and their bodies were covered in sword wounds. Chu Tianyu looked deeply at the girl in front of him. There was no longer any pity, guilt, infatuation, or pleading in her eyes. Instead, there was only admiration and battle intent that had been ignited. After so many years, this was the first time he had met his match, and the first time he had fought to his heart's content. At this moment, there was only joy in his heart. Even the mysterious Heaven Pearl, even Chu Xinyan, as well as the humiliation and despair he had been born with, were all thrown to the back of his mind. He just wanted to finish this fight as quickly as possible. The two of them didn't say anything else and soared into the sky almost at the same time. The sword radiance flashed, and the wind howled. Thousands of sword nets fell from the sky and exploded. Sky-piercing flame cut, when used to the extreme, could create 108 cuts at the same time. That was a true sea of raging flames. It blotted out the sky and was unstoppable. Originally, Chu Tianyu had no way to display that sky-piercing raging flame cut to its peak. But at this moment, his mind suddenly became clear, and he truly displayed it. Mayan feels as if she's in a boundless sea of swords. That sea of swords was even vaster and sharper than little Martial Uncle's sword formation. Every single one of them contained piercingly cold killing intent, and they pressed forward courageously and were difficult to resist. After all, the time that Mu Yan has spent learning the sword is too short, and the time that Luo Yunxiao has taught her is even shorter. Most of the time, she has to rely on herself to figure out the sword formation and the ancient books that Junior Uncle left behind. At this moment, facing Chu Tianyu, who had been cultivating sword intent for more than 10 years, he was naturally at a disadvantage. Mayan's spiritual power is slowly depleting, and with her lotus blossoming steps, she can no longer avoid every single sword ray. Bloody scars began to appear on his body. Would she lose? Lose her identity as Yi Liangqin, lose the profound heaven orb, lose the courage to become stronger? Mu Yan was in a trance. More and more sword chi landed on her body, causing her to be drenched in blood. Suddenly, two figures, one large and one small, appeared in front of her. It was on the summit of Danyang Mountain. Di Mingju hugged Xiao Bao and said that he wanted to be Xiao Bao's real father. He wanted the family to never be separated. At that time, just how bright were Xiao Bao's eyes, just how longing, just what kind of warmth flowed through her heart. Was she going to admit defeat? Never. Buzz buzz buzz. Mu Yan doesn't notice that the small dark green sword that Luo Yunxiao gave her is trembling violently in the space. At the same time, at the core of her star domain, a ball of light was faintly discernible and slowly taking shape. Countless sword wills poured into her mind. It was someone else's, but also her own. It was as vast as the sea, scattered like stars on a chessboard. I want this world to no longer be able to shackle my destiny. I want this world to never be able to take away anything I care about. I want to be with the one I love in this world of mortals and never leave him. This is my, June Mayan's, sword heart, protect. Mayan suddenly opens her eyes, her peach blossom pupils are as bright as the stars, as bright as the blazing sun. A dazzling light, accompanied by an earth-shaking roar, burst out from the net of the 108, void-piercing flame cuts. Almost at the same time, Chu Tinyo's last sword move, the strongest move, the setting sun void cut, also arrived. Rumble. The violent sound caused the entire flying dragon city to shake. The mirror visualizing secret realm on the high platform at the center let out cracking noises. In the end, under the situation where the mentors of Longting were shocked and didn't have enough time to input spiritual power to repair it, it shattered with a loud bang, along with the high platform in the center of Flying Dragon City. Gravel splashed, and for a moment, many people were injured by the gravel. Chapter 2067. However, no one was willing to leave. They stared at the center of the smoke and dust, and there was only one thought in their minds. Chu Tianyu or Jun Mayan, who won in the end? The Qilin team, the carefree team, who would ultimately become the first king of the Deer Cry Banquet? Cultivation Continent, Jungle Ruins. Swish! While Luo Yunxiao was exploring the ruins, 8 natal flying swords suddenly appeared around her without being summoned. The tips of the swords were all pointed in the same direction, emitting a buzzing sound. The powerful sword chi spread out, causing all the spirit beasts in the forest to become restless and flee. Luo Yunxiao stared blankly at this scene as if she had lost her mind. Master, what's going on? Why is your natal heart sword moving on its own? Chiwen anxiously walked around the 8 swords a few times and asked nervously, Master, is there something wrong with your body? Luo Yunxiao only came back to her senses after a long while. Her slender jade-like hand waved in the air. The 8 flying swords flew back at lightning speed and entered his body. A wave of pure energy washed through his body. It was like a cleansing of his soul and domain. Master, what happened? Ah! Could something have happened to Mei Yanyan? The other natal swords sensed danger from the Dragon Void sword. What to do? Should we go save Mei Yanyan? Master, you won't be heavily injured because the Dragon Abyss sword is damaged, right? It's not a crisis. Chiwen chattered for a long time before she heard the man's slightly hoarse voice. It's not a crisis. It's Mu Yan who has condensed her sword heart. Quack. Chiwen's voice got stuck in her throat, and she couldn't say a single word for a long time. Condense. Not. Sword. Heart. Did it hear wrongly? Mei Yanyan condensed a sword heart. Master, are you joking with me? Luo Yunxiao slowly exhaled, a helpless yet gentle smile slowly blossomed on her beautiful and picturesque features. I had originally thought that I was helping her, but in the end, I still owe her. The sound of the zither in the river of forgetfulness once, the engagement once, and the heart sword once again. Jun Mayan, your redemption, how can I repay it in full? How could he have the chance to pay it off? Shushan Continent, Polar Domain, Northern Frontier. Di Mingju, who had just annihilated a wave of poltergeist ghosts, suddenly shudders all over. He abruptly opens his palm. A strange fluctuation slowly condensed in his palm, forming a faint luster. Jun Shang, what's wrong? Han Yi beheads a roaring ghost that pounces over, asking nervously. Di Mingju looks at it for a while, then withdraws his hand. The corner of his mouth outlines an imperceptible smile. Mayan has condensed her sword heart. What? Hearing this, Han Yi is almost bitten by the poltergeist that pounces on him. Condensed sword heart. The sword heart with the domain core. A golden core stage cultivator from the cultivation continent condensed a sword heart. Jun Shang, are you teasing me? Han Yi isn't the only one who is dumbstruck. Even defeating armies, who is like a heartless and emotionless puppet, has an incredulous expression on his face. As far as they knew, it was because of the limitations of the cultivation world's energy field. The number of people who could activate a domain there was less than 1 in 10 million. For Miss June to be able to activate her domain at the age of 20, that was already an unimaginable talent. In the Shushin continent, there were many people who could activate their domains. But domain sword heart. What's that? That's the realm that all sword cultivators yearn for even in their dreams. Once a sword heart is condensed, it can double the speed of the domain's advancement. Chapter 2068. Moreover, his comprehension of sword intent, the coherence between his sword chi and his body, and the exertion of his own strength would all be greatly enhanced. Not to mention, only those who possessed the sword heart could refine their own natal flying sword after their sword heart was completely stabilized. It could be said that only a person who had condensed a sword heart was qualified to be called a true sword cultivator. In the Shushin continent, only when one's domain reached the 5th rank would they begin to condense their sword heart. In the entire Shushin continent, Di Mingju was able to condense his sword heart when he was at the 4th rank of domain master. What about Miss June? She was only at the 3rd level of domain. Moreover, he was able to condense his sword heart in a place where the energy in the cultivation continent was heterogeneous. If it weren't for Di Mingju saying this, Han Yi would have directly spat out, "Nonsense, you condensed the sword heart in your dream." The first to react was Ying Mei. Her face, which had always been as cold as ice, revealed an excited and expectant smile. "That's great, as expected of Miss June, my lord. Does that mean that Miss June can come to the Shushin continent faster and become the mistress of the polar domain faster?" Di Mingju's complexion is cold, but the bottom of his eyes is sparkling. He remembered what Mu Yan had told him. She wanted to be a wife who was worthy of him, a wife who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him, and not a canary in a cage. Because of this promise, his Yen worked hard without a moment's rest. There has never been a moment like this when Di Mingju believes that Mayan also loves him, as if their hearts are linked. Because she loved him, she was desperate to become stronger. Because she loved him, she tried her best to get close to him, tried her best to make them a real family. Jun Shang. Han Yi originally wants to ask Di Mingju if he's sure that Mayan has really condensed her sword heart. When he raised his head, he was stunned. Only to see Di Mingju's face rippling with a gentle unloving smile. At that moment, Jun Shang, who has always been cold and aloof, is unexpectedly happy like a child. His face, which was already extremely handsome to begin with, instantly became as elegant as the rosy clouds of the morning, causing people's hearts to be enchanted. However, they were only willing to submit to him and look up to him, treating him as their lifelong faith. Han Yi stares blankly. He suddenly kneels down and bows. "Jun Shang, in this world, only Miss June is worthy of you. She would definitely become the mistress of the polar domain." "No, the mistress of the polar domain can only be Miss June." Di Mingju restrains his expression and lowers his head to look at him. He faintly says, 3 months in the purgatory pool, for now." Han Ye's words were originally spoken from his heart, from his feelings. He didn't expect that by a stroke of luck, he would be exempted from the purgatory pool for 3 months. He was overjoyed. Sure enough, in front of Jun Shang, there were no other principles. As long as Miss June was praised, then it was right. Hee. Han Yi bends down. Just as he's about to express his thanks, there's a sudden violent fluctuation in the barrier not too far away. Then, a dense horde of venomous ghosts roared and surged in crazily. Han Ye's complexion greatly changes. How could this be? Isn't the barrier about to stabilize? Ying Mei shouted, "Xian Division, listen up. Kill. Kill." The light in Di Mingju's eyes faintly narrow. He raises his hand, and in the hollow of his palm, there faintly appears a weapon that seems like a sword but isn't a sword, seems like a knife but isn't a knife. It was impossible to discern the color or shape of this weapon. It's just that as soon as it appeared, the venomous ghosts that wanted to approach Di Mingju instinctively feel fear. They whimper, wanting to retreat. Di Mingju raises his hand, but he doesn't seem to make any movements. Chapter 2069. A red light flashes, and dozens of poltergeist ghosts immediately vaporize and disappear. But Di Mingju looks at the enchantment and slowly frowns. Is it his illusion? The strength of the poltergeist ghosts this time seems to be stronger than last time. But the energy of the enchantment has weakened. Xiuzhen Continent, Dragon Soaring Academy. The dust and smoke in the center of Flying Dragon City dissipate, and two figures slowly appear. Whether it's Chu Tianyu or Jun Mayan, both are scarred, their faces like paper. Everyone holds their breath for a moment, staring unblinkingly at the scene on the broken platform. Finally, the girl in the blood-stained white dress slowly hooks up her lips. Her pale and gloomy complexion is like the dull sky, stained with red clouds, bright and beautiful. Chu Tianyu, on the other hand, suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood. A huge wound split open from his chest. The wound is so deep that the bone can be seen, just an inch away from the centrifugal artery. And this is obviously not because he avoided the vital parts, but because the opponent was lenient. Chu Tianyu's body suddenly shakes, and he quickly uses the scarlet flame sword to support himself, so that he doesn't completely fall down. His blank eyes slowly fill with astonishment and disbelief. He lost. In a real competition, he actually lost to Jun Mayan. A young girl at the first level of Gold Core stage, no more than 20 years old. Captain. Boss Chu, are you okay? The members of the Qilin team rush over, their faces full of worry. Chu Tianyu stares at Jun Mayan in a daze. After a long time, he reveals a bleak and desperate smile, slowly shaking his head. He opens his cracked and blood-stained lips, and with difficulty, he spits out 3 words with almost all his strength: I lost. As soon as these words come out, the entire Flying Dragon City is thoroughly seething. 1. The winner is the Carefree team, it's actually Jun Mayan. The Qilin team lost to a team of 7 people, how is this possible? Everyone's face is filled with shock, amazement, and complete bewilderment. The strongest team of Dragon Soaring Academy, the genius combination of 1 in 10,000 in the younger generation of Purple Cloud Realm, actually lost to an unknown team of Azure Blue Realm. And the most outstanding Heaven's Pride in the history of Dragon Soaring Academy lost to an auxiliary Zither Master. How could the high and mighty cultivators of the Purple Cloud Realm accept this? Even more unacceptable were the other members of the Kirin team. Are you kidding me? How could our Kirin team lose? The veins on Xue Huailu's face bulged as he roared hysterically, I refuse to accept this. How can we lose to a bunch of trash from the Azure Blue Realm? Su Yi also screamed, yes, we haven't lost yet, we still have a chance. Jun Mayan, don't think that Xiaoyao team has won just because you used a trick to win against the captain. Not to mention Xue Huailu and Su Yi, even Jin Zhonghao, Duan Wenbin, and Chu Yuanlei revealed expressions of unwillingness. In front of everyone, it was 10 against 7, a high-level Gold Core Realm cultivator against a low-level Gold Core Realm cultivator. If they admitted defeat, how could they have the face to stay in Longting in the future? Chu Tianyu frowned. He wanted to say something but didn't say anything in the end. Xue Huailu's spirit jolted as he glared venomously at the members of Carefree team. The real competition has only just begun. My Qilin team won't be lenient anymore. Xue Huailu was incomparably arrogant right now. He felt that he had the capital to be arrogant. Because at this time, everyone in the Carefree team was already covered in cuts and bruises, and their spiritual power was almost exhausted. Chapter 2070. The Qilin team is also injured, but they are high-level core formation cultivators, and their spiritual power is vigorous. In addition, there are 10 people. Don't look at how each of them is injured and suppressed, but their true loss is far less than that of the Carefree team. Especially June Mayan, although she won the battle against Chu Tianyu. She also paid a heavy price. Chu Tianyu is powerless to fight again, but does she still have the strength to spare? In other words, in the battle just now, the Qilin team used Chu Tianyu to exchange for the strongest support and the strongest fighting force of the Carefree team. Now, the Carefree team is left with only the weak soldiers, unable to withstand a single blow. Their Qilin team will definitely win. There's no flowers in the mirror in the next match. You bunch of wastes will really be crippled if you're crippled. June Mayan, how about this? You kneel down and kowtow to beg for mercy, and then come under my crotch. Maybe I can let you lose a bit more decently. Shui Huailu spouts nonsense while looking at Mayan with a malicious look. Just now, it was this woman who made him lose face, and caused his spirit to suffer irreversible damage. He now hates June Mayan even more than he hates Luoyu. He can't wait to ruthlessly trample on June Mayan and lose all his dignity, only then will he feel appeased. In the stands, all the cultivators reveal expressions of disgust and anger because of Shui Huailu's words. Although they can't accept that all the glory and splendor have been taken away by the people of Azure Blue World, they are only unwilling, only ashamed. They have never thought of humiliating the strong like this. And Shui Huailu's current action is taking advantage of people's difficulties, using numbers to bully the few. It's the behavior of a shameless villain. Such a despicable and shameless guy, they actually regard this great god as their idol. It's simply an extraordinary shame and humiliation. But even more people are worried about the Carefree team. 7 people fighting, each one covered in cuts and bruises, and without the protection of flowers in the mirror, what will happen to them? Carefree team, withdraw from the competition. We already know that you're the strongest. Yes, June Mayan, no, great god June, you are the strongest in the Dear Cry banquet, there's no need to bother with that kind of person. Overwhelming voices come from the stands, reaching the ears of everyone in the Qilin team and the Carefree team. Shui Huailu, Su Yi, and the others' faces contorted. They never would have thought that the majority of the people who originally supported them would now be cheering for the Carefree team. Why? Shui Huailu's eyes were filled with malevolence, he glared at Mu Yan even more fiercely, his eyes filled with crazy killing intent. Duan Wenbin and the others had ugly expressions on their faces as they glared at Shui Huailu and Su Yi. They cupped their hands towards Mu Yan and said, I know that if we continue to compete now, it will be an unfair victory for our Qilin team. However, our Qilin team represents the Soaring Dragon sect and the Purple Cloud boundary. As long as the rules of the competition allow it, we will never give up on winning. I hope everyone will forgive me for this. If you're not willing to continue fighting, then this match can be considered a draw. Most people agreed with Duan Wenbin's words. This was the demeanor that a cultivator of the Purple Cloud realm, a prodigy of the Soaring Dragon, should have. After Duan Wenbin said this, he thought that everyone in the Carefree team would agree with him as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. However, who would have thought that what greeted him was Mayan's chuckle? Are you sure you want to continue the competition? The Tian Mo Qin appeared in Mayan's hand, and she slowly sat down on the ground. Her fingers moved the strings, making a melodious sound. I advise you not to. Otherwise, the Qilin team will not even have the last bit of fig leaf. Chapter 2071. Duan Wenbin frowns, Miss June, there's no point in boasting at this time. Mayan sneers, well, since you think it's boasting, then let's continue the game. Her eyes sweep over the people of the Xiaoyao sect. Responding to her is the tacit laughter of her fellow apprentices. Ling Yuma is bathed in blood, but her eyes flash with a burning light of desire. Junior sister, let's start. I'm already impatient waiting for the moment to hang them up and beat them up. Hang them up and beat them up. This word makes the Qilin team and the cultivators in the stand stare blankly. Are the people of the Xiaoyao team crazy, or did they hit their heads? They actually want to hang them up and beat the Qilin team. Relying on their almost exhausted spiritual power and riddled with holes. Ha 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 ha. Xue Huailu lets out an unbridled laugh. Want to hang us up and beat us up? This is the best joke I've ever heard. Su Yi also sneers, in a moment, when we beat them half to death, don't cry for mercy. Even Duan Wenbin and Chu Yuanlei frown. The people of the Xiaoyao team are too arrogant. They're clearly an arrow at the end of its flight, yet they still dare to talk nonsense. Even if today's victory is unfair, they must teach these madmen a lesson. As she thinks this, Mayan's fingers on the zither suddenly speed up. The next moment, an invisible energy is emitted from the Tian Imo Qin, splitting into 6 parts and connecting to the 6 people of the Xiaoyao sect. In an instant, the spiritual power in the air forms a whirlpool and rushes into the Tian Imo Qin, then along the Tian Imo Qin, it rushes to the 7 people connected. At the same time, the 7 people's divine sense, fighting intent, and primordial spirit are highly unified, blending and matching. Shen musician level 6 skill, Big Dipper, starts. Almost as soon as the Big Dipper is launched, Chu Tinyo's pupils suddenly shrink. He looks up at the 7 people of the Xiaoyao team in disbelief. There's only one thought in his mind. The Qilin team lost. A crushing defeat. Ling Yuma wasn't lying, the Xiaoyao team can really hang the Qilin team. And Jun Mayan, or rather, Yi Liangchen, thoroughly trampled Chu Tianyu under her feet. He was defeated wholeheartedly, without the slightest hesitation or complaint. Under the dumbfounded gaze of tens of thousands of people in Flying Dragon City. The Carefree team, which had formed the Big Dipper formation, defeated the Qilin team with a crushing force. Duan Wenbin, Murong Shui, and the others had it easy if they fought head-on. At most, he would be kicked out of the ring or knocked unconscious. The injuries on his body were only superficial wounds that would heal in 3 to 5 days. The truly pitiful ones were Xue Huailu and Su Yi. When the members of the Carefree squad beat them up, they really beat them to death. His hair was disheveled, and his clothes were in tatters. The screams of the 2 of them like pigs being slaughtered resounded in every corner of Flying Dragon City. All the spectators in the Flying Dragon City couldn't help but swallow their saliva, but they still felt a chill down their spines. How terrifying! The Carefree team was so scary. Damn it, is this a spar? It was clearly a one-sided abuse. Didn't they see Xue Huailu and Su Yi, the 2 former champions of Ganhua and Hiyu, bawling their eyes out with tears and snot? Moreover, if you beat people up, then beat them up. Why did you beat them until they lost their clothes? Long Ting's Heaven's Pride, a noble son of an aristocratic family, a former great god, exposing his balls and buttocks in public, he doesn't want face. Then he heard Mayan say in a heavenly voice, time is tight, it's such a pity that I can't draw a picture of a beauty. Chapter 2072. Everyone in the stands shuddered at the thought of it. At this moment, there's only one thought echoing in their minds. The unfettered 7 demons can't be provoked. Absolutely can't be provoked. The female demon Mayan can't be provoked. Can't be provoked even in death. After the match, the unfettered team, Qilin team, and instructor Long Ting returned to the chaotic tower. At this time, there's only 2 hours left until the mysterious heavenly orb condenses. The atmosphere in the chaotic tower is very heavy. The previously high-spirited Qilin team is now dejected, their faces filled with disappointment. As for the most miserable Su Yi and Shui Huailu, they've already fainted, thrown into a corner of the chaotic tower like a pile of mud. No one even looks at them. Even the Qilin team feels disdain and disgust towards these two, ashamed to be associated with them. But what about their captain, Chu Tianyu? He said he's Yi Liangqin. But in the match just now, he lost to Jun Mayan. The King Yi Liangqin is the Lord of 6 stars, an omnipotent existence. And the heaven-defying strength that Mayan displayed in the battle is even greater than the rumored Yi Liangqin. No matter how much the Qilin team respects and trusts their captain, their hearts are filled with suspicion. Boss Chu. Suddenly, Murong Shui strode forward and blocked Chu Tianyu's path. Boss Chu, tell us one more time. Are you Yi Liangqin? In the chaotic tower, everyone's gazes are focused on them. Shui. Duan Wenbin tugs at her. How can you speak to the captain like that? The other Qilin team look at Mayan, then at Chu Tianyu, and hangs their heads. I've always been like this. If there's something in my heart, I just can't hold it in. Bite me. Murong Shui shakes off Duan Wenbin's hand and stares straight at Chu Tianyu. Boss Chu, I've always respected you as our boss, the only captain of the Qilin team. You have a gentle temperament, you're upright and kind, you never bully the weak, nor help the wicked. I don't want to believe that you're a shameless person who impersonates others and plucks the fruits of others. Now, please tell me personally whether you are Yap Liangqin or not. As long as you say you are, everyone in the Kirin squad will believe you unconditionally. Even if... Murong Shui paused for a moment, then choked with sobs. Even if you really did lie for some reason, as long as you tell us, the Qilin squad will bear the consequences with you. We will apologize to those who need to apologize and compensate those who need to be compensated together. Captain, please, give the order to the Qilin team. As soon as Murong Shui said this, everyone in the Qilin team, including Duan Wenbin, looked up at Chu Tianyu with bright eyes. Everyone's eyes shone with trust, respect, and unwavering comradeship. Chu Tianyu felt as if his heart was being grabbed by something, and he couldn't breathe for a moment. However, there was also a surge of sourness and warmth that surged into his heart. It made his eyes burn, and he almost wanted to cry. Sorry, Before Chu Tianyu could finish his words, a hand suddenly pressed heavily on his shoulder. Yu Zuinjian laughed and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Tianyu is obviously Yap Liangqin." Chu Tianyu frowned. Before he could say anything, the outspoken Chu Yuanlei already said, "But it's true that our Qilin team lost just now. The winner will be Yap Liangqin." This was agreed before the game. Chapter 2073. Besides, that girl in the carefree team, that Jun Mayan is really powerful, more powerful than our boss and us. Only such a person could become the Lord of 6 stars and stand at the top of all the elites in the Soaring Dragon Academy. What a joke. Yu Zuinjin sneered. Whoever wins will be Yi Liangqin. Who made the rule? Is it so easy to confirm Yi Liangqin's identity? This time, even the dean and the mentors of the Soaring Dragon Academy frowned. In fact, in the battle just now, Jun Mayan's performance had convinced them that the girl was Yap Liangqin. But now, what did Yu Zuinjin mean? Yu Zuinjin glanced at Mayan and said slowly, "Have you forgotten that Yi Liangqin has another identity besides being the Lord of 6 stars? He is the successor of the King of Medicine." Many mentors in the Soaring Dragon Academy know about Tianyu's talent in alchemy. But as far as I know, no one in the carefree team knows alchemy. Some days ago, he even blew up 2 alchemy furnaces in the Tianlang Palace. Is that true? Mayan glanced at him with a faint smile. So what if it is? Ha ha ha. Look, your words have exposed that you are not Yi Liangchen at all. Elder Song laughed. Yi Liangchen is the successor of the King of Medicine. If the successor of the King of Medicine doesn't know alchemy, wouldn't it be a joke? Now, even Zhou Daoyi and the others looked doubtful. Yes, many people witnessed the explosion of the alchemy furnaces in the Tianlang Palace. A person who could blow up 2 alchemy furnaces in a row must know nothing about alchemy. How could such a person be qualified to be the successor of the King of Medicine? On the other hand, Chu Tianyu had shown amazing talent in alchemy when he first joined the Soaring Dragon Academy. Over the years, his talent had been growing day by day. Until now, there were only 2 mentors in the entire Soaring Dragon Academy who could surpass Chu Tianyu in alchemy, let alone students. Chu Tianyu's face darkened and his eyes were full of irritation. Vice Dean, please stop. I don't. Before he could finish, the hand on his shoulder suddenly tightened, and the nails almost dug into his flesh. Chu Tianyu felt the pain seeping into his bones, and he couldn't help but groan. Before he could raise his head, he heard Yu Tsuenjian's cold voice ringing in his ears, "Your Highness, you'd better think it through. This is the last chance the Marquis is giving you. If you still can't obtain the profound heaven pearl this time, you will not be able to escape death, but the one who will be even more miserable is your mother." Chu Tianyu's body trembled, and his face turned pale like snow. He clenched his teeth until the tip of his tongue tasted blood. Only then did he close his eyes miserably. He allowed himself to sink all his conscience, hopes, and expectations into the abyss of hell. Yu Tsuenjian revealed a victorious smile. Glancing over the Kirin team, he loosened his grip on Chu Tianyu's shoulder and patted him gently. "Come on, Tianyu. Tell them if you're Yi Liangchen." Chu Tianyu slowly opened his eyes and met the expectant and nervous gazes of the Kirin squad. A stiff smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said in a hoarse voice, "I'm Yi Liangchen. I want to obtain the profound heaven pearl." For a moment, the expressions of the Kirin squad were complicated. Some breathed a sigh of relief, some were suspicious, and some were disappointed. However, all of this no longer mattered to Chu Tianyu. Yu Tsuenjian turned his triumphant eyes to Mu Yan. "Miss June, I'll give you one more chance. Do you still think you're the only successor of the King of Medicine, Yi Liangchen?" Chapter 2074. Mu Yan glanced meaningfully at Chu Tianyu, who was in a daze, and then looked at Yu Tsuenjian. "Vice Elder Yu, do you mean that Chu Tianyu and Dragon Soaring Academy are going to go back on their word again?" Before the competition between Team Qilin and Team Carefree, everyone had tacitly agreed that the winner would be Yi Liangchen. Lan Huahong had already returned to the palace, but Lan Feng stayed to support Mu Yan. Seeing this scene, he could not help but sneer. Executive Zhou, no matter what, Dragon Soaring Academy is still one of the best places for educating people on the path of cultivation. How can you still go back on your word like this? Zhou Daoyi's face darkened, and he was in a dilemma. The mysterious sky bead and the chaotic tower are the most precious treasures left by the emperor. Isn't it reasonable to be careful? Elder Song shouted, "This little girl obviously doesn't know how to refine elixirs. How could she become the successor of King of Medicine? There is something strange about it. How can she be Yi Liangchen just because she won the competition?" Lan Feng said angrily, "Everyone knows that none of the 3 tests of King of Medicine have anything to do with elixir refining. King of Medicine wants to choose people with talent in elixir refining, not those who have experience in alchemy. Even if Miss June doesn't know how to refine elixirs, it doesn't prove that she is not Yi Liangchen." And it was true. On the surface, the 3 inheritance tests of King of Medicine indeed had nothing to do with elixir refining. But who asked King of Medicine to be the only holy ancestor-level alchemist in the world? Yu Tsuanjin sneered, "You don't know how to refine elixirs at all, yet you have the nerve to call yourself the personal disciple of King of Medicine. What a joke." The hall of the chaotic tower fell into an impasse. Mu Yen slightly raised her eyebrows and glanced at the people of Dragon Soaring Academy with a faint smile. "Then how do you want to prove who is Yi Liangqin?" Yu Tsuanjin was silent for a moment. He looked at Chu Tianyu and gritted his teeth. "Refine elixirs. In this chaotic tower, you two will compete in alchemy. Whoever can refine the better elixir will be Yi Liangqin." He said this, expecting to see Mu Yen and the people of Team Carefree in panic, anger, and unwillingness. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, the 7 boys and girls all revealed a strange smile. These people looked at Chu Tianyu as if they were looking at an idiot. A trace of uneasiness and anger rose in Yu Tsuanjin's heart. He snapped, "What are you laughing at?" Mu Yen ignored him, and leisurely found a chair in the hall, and lazily sat down. The people of the Xiaoyao sect did the same. They all sat comfortably and leisurely, as if they were in their own garden. He had completely disregarded the many mentors and deans of the Dragon Soaring Academy. Yu Tsuanjin was furious. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Mu Yen. A slender white finger was raised, and a voice as sweet as the sounds of nature resounded in everyone's ears. "Do you want to compete in alchemy?" "Not bad. But I have a condition." Elder Song was enraged. "You arrogant little girl, how dare you raise conditions with us?" Yu Tsuanjin's face turned blue and white. Mu Yen ignored them and said leisurely, "If you don't agree, fine. I will leave the chaotic tower right now." However, in less than a quarter of an hour, the news that the Dragon Soaring Academy asked Chu Tianyu to pretend to be Yi Liangqin, the Lord of 6 Stars, will spread throughout the Tianguang ruins and even the Purple Cloud realm. Everyone's faces froze and almost twisted. Chapter 2075. This little girl is so ruthless. So ruthless. What kind of existence is Yap Liangqin in the Tianguang ruins? He is the real god, the belief of all Liangqin's army. Do you think that there is no king below Yap Liangqin is just a casual remark? In the eyes of Liangqin's army, their great god Yap is omnipotent and invincible. Under such circumstances, if you let them know that Longting Academy found a loser to pretend to be the perfect great god Yap in their eyes, wouldn't these crazy Liangqin's army overturn the entire Longting Academy? This is a threat, a blatant threat. Zhou Daoi coughed lightly. "Tell me the condition first." Mayan smiled and gently stroked the jade key of the Tianguang ruins with her fingers. Then she said slowly, "I want everyone to swear by their souls that from today on, no information about Yap Liangqin will be leaked. If they violate this, they will be punished by heaven and their souls will be destroyed." Previously, she didn't want to say that she was Yap Liangqin because she wanted to keep a low profile and avoid trouble. But now, Yap Liangqin, who has the mysterious heaven bead and the King of Medicine's inheritance, was already a crime. Mayan could totally imagine that if the news of her being Yap Liangqin was spread out, there would definitely be a group of people coming to him. They all wanted to get what they wanted from Yap Liangqin. What if they couldn't get it? Coercion, bribery, murder, and robbing were all common occurrences. If it wasn't for the fact that she had to get the mysterious heaven bead, Mayan didn't want anyone in the Ziyun realm to know that she was Yap Liangqin. Hearing this condition, Zhou Daoi was immediately relieved. "Okay, we agree." They didn't want to reveal Yap Liangqin's identity. Guessing was one thing, but if Mayan was really Yap Liangqin, the Longting Academy would lose all its face. If they didn't reveal Yap Liangqin's identity, they would at least have one last piece of fig leaf. Strangely, after frowning, Elder Song and Yu Tsuanjin agreed without hesitation. However, they revealed a meaningful sneer of contempt on their faces. Everyone present, including Shuehuailu and Su Yi, was forced to swear that they wouldn't reveal any information about Yap Liangqin. Soon, two huge alchemy furnaces with flowing halos appeared in front of them. These two pill furnaces were both rank 8 spirit artifacts. Moreover, it was a high-grade spirit weapon among the 8th rank spirit weapons. Each of them was worth 7 or 8 million high-grade crystal stones. They saw Mu Yan walking towards one of the alchemy furnaces, surrounded by the members of the Xiaoyao sect. Zhou Daoi's brows suddenly twitched. Don't tell me this 8th grade alchemy furnace exploded again. No matter how wealthy the Dragon Soaring Academy was, they couldn't afford to have high-grade spirit artifacts explode one after another. Mayan's complexion darkens. If she explodes again, she'll be as poor as a doorbell. The members of the Carefree Squad laughed out loud without holding back. Little junior sister, if we really blow up the 3rd alchemy furnace, we'll all have to sell our bodies to the Dragon Soaring Academy to pay off our debts. That's right. You must take it easy this time. If you want to sell yourself, let little junior sister do it. She's more valuable. Maybe if we sell junior sister, we'll be able to go back to the azure blue world and live a good life. Mu Yan. Selling me for 3 alchemy furnaces, is our brother-sister friendship made of paper? The people of the Xiaoyao school were laughing and joking, but their conversation was overheard by Yu Zuanjian and Shuehuailu, who had just woken up. Chapter 2076. However, he felt that she really did not know how to forge weapons. Yu Zuanjian's anxious heart was completely at ease. As for Shuehuailu and Su Yi, their gazes weren't just filled with hatred and fear, they were filled with bone-deep hatred. After waking up, the two of them discovered that more than half of their meridians and sea of consciousness had been destroyed. Both of them were auxiliary cultivators. With their sea of consciousness destroyed, it was equivalent to saying that all their previous cultivation efforts were in vain. How could they not hate him? As long as they can prove that Jun Mayan is not Yap Liangqin, they will immediately dismember this group of bastards. Even if Jun Mayan was really Yap Liangqin, they would still consign them to eternal damnation. The alchemy competition soon began. This time, Chu Tianyu did not say anything, but silently stood in front of the alchemy furnace. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with sorrow. Yu Zuanjin was worried that the man was deliberately going easy on him. But when Chu Tianyu took out some rare and precious spirit herbs, Yu Zuanjian's worry immediately turned into ecstasy. This is the formula of Golden Crow Elixir. Is Tianyu going to refine a 7th grade Golden Crow Elixir? As soon as these words came out, the entire hall was in an uproar. In the cultivation world, there was a rule that could not be followed. An alchemist can only be called a grandmaster when he can refine a 7th grade and above medicinal pill. For example, a 7th tier alchemy grandmaster. From this, it was obvious how great the gap between a 7th and 6th grade medicinal pill was. As for the Golden Crow pill, it was a rare item among the 7th grade pills. With the assistance of elixirs, cultivators with metal and fire spiritual roots could refine their meridians and condense metal and fire elemental energy faster, thus speeding up their advancement. In the Tianguang ruins, a Golden Crow elixir could be sold for at least a few 100,000 high-grade crystals. Captain can already refine 7th grade pills. How old is he? In our family, even a 100-year-old alchemist might not be able to refine the Golden Crow pill. This kind of alchemy talent, this kind of improvement speed, to say that he is the only successor of the Medicine King is really too believable. Could it be that Yap Liangqin wasn't Jun Mayan, but Chu Tianyu? Looking at Mu Yan's side. Little junior sister, did you see that Chu Tianyu only took out rare spirit medicines? Why are all these cheap goods that can be found on the streets? Are you sure you can fight against Chu Tianyu like this? Mu Yan has a headache. Do you think I want to? I am also very helpless. This isn't the fault of Qi Huang, that brat. The Tian Mo Qin space doesn't let him put this, doesn't let him put that. He even said that the spiritual herbs she bought were trash. She could only place them in the jade key of the Tianguang ruins. Now, she couldn't take them out. The only thing he left behind was a small storage ring, which contained some ordinary spirit herbs that he had collected in the Azure Blue Realm's Red Yang mountain range. Yun Ruhan frowned and said, "Little junior sister, what spirit herbs do you need? Do you want me to find them for you now?" Mayan was moved in her heart. At the critical moment, eldest senior brother was indeed the best. However, she still shook her head. No need, no need. I'll just refine what I'm best at. Luo Yu asked curiously, "Sixth senior sister, what pill are you best at? Could it be the Ji Yuan Dan?" Mu Yan hooks up her lips, revealing a mysterious smile. "You'll know in a while." Time passed as the two pill furnaces burned with raging alchemic flames. Finally, after nearly an hour, an anomaly appeared on Chu Tianyu's side. Accompanied by crackling sounds coming from the alchemy furnace, rays of golden light were emitted from the lid of the alchemy furnace. Chapter 2077. At the same time, a rich medicinal aroma permeated the entire hole. Is it really the Golden Crow elixir? Even the vice deans were shocked. Tianyu really made a 7th grade Golden Crow elixir. Who would believe that a golden core cultivator under the age of 30 could make a 7th grade Golden Crow elixir? Yutsuinjian and Elder Song were full of pride. This proves that Tianyu is the real Yi Liangqin, right? Without his talent, who would be qualified to be the personal disciple of the King of Medicine? Elder Song looked up at the top of the tower and said anxiously, "The dark heaven orb is about to condense. I'd better ask Tianyu to get it first." Yes, there was less than half an hour left before the dark heaven orb would condense. The entire chaotic tower had fallen to the ground. There was also a faint but powerful energy fluctuation coming from the top of the tower. Yutsuinjian and Elder Song thought that as long as they could get the dark heaven orb, it didn't matter who Yi Liangqin was. However, Zhou Daoi and the others became more cautious after the previous match. Zhou Daoi said, "No hurry. Mayan is not done yet. Let's wait and see." Almost at the same time his voice fell, Mu Yan's alchemy furnace also stirred. The same dazzling light was emitted from the furnace. But the difference was that the light on Mayan's side did not come from the top of the furnace, but from the whole furnace. Almost at the same time, the whole furnace was creaking as if it would disintegrate at any time. Zhou Daoi's face darkened. Is it going to explode again? There was a loud bang. But it was not the furnace that exploded. Instead, it was the lid that flew off. A fragrance several times stronger than the Golden Crow elixir made by Chu Tianyu came from inside. At the bottom of the furnace, 10 shining elixirs were lying quietly. It's done. Ling Yuma said happily, "Junior sister, what elixir is this? It smells even stronger than the elemental elixir, but I don't think I've smelled it before." Just as Mu Yan was about to reply, she saw that the 8th grade alchemy furnace seemed to have completed its mission and could no longer endure it. It let out creaking sounds and then suddenly collapsed, shattering into a pile of residue. All of a sudden, Zhou Daoi was dumbfounded. Everyone in the Xiao Yao squad was dumbfounded. Mu Yan is also struck dumb. Bastard! This time, she had clearly tried her best to restrain herself. She did not use the Heart's Eye array formation, nor did she use the cloud-forming sea, so why did the furnace still explode? This broken alchemy furnace couldn't be a fake, right? She swallowed her saliva and forced a smile at Zhou Daoyi. At least the furnace didn't explode this time. Maybe if I stick them together. I can. Stick them together. The last 3 words were softly silenced by Zhou Daoyi's murderous gaze. Zhou Daoyi really wanted to cry. The third high-grade alchemy furnace. Nearly 10 million top-grade crystals. Even someone as wealthy as Long Ting would feel the pain of losing so much in one go. Did this bastard girl really think that her family owned Soaring Dragon? And he said that at least the furnace didn't explode. How dare you talk about sticking together? Stick to your big head. Pay. This time, they had to pay. Furthermore, he had to compensate him for the 2 that he had blown up last time. However, before Zhou Daoyi could lose his temper, he heard Yu Zuanjin ridiculing, "You destroyed an 8th-grade alchemy furnace and only refined a few 6th-grade elixirs." Chapter 2078. Jun Mayan, how dare you call yourself Yi Liangqin with such a level of alchemy? At this time, Mayan's 10 elixirs have been placed together with Chu Tianyu's 2 elixirs. Yes, Chu Tianyu only refined 2 elixirs in one go. But no one would think that the value of 2 7th-grade elixirs would be lower than that of 10 6th-grade elixirs. In the first round, Chu Tianyu lost to Jun Mayan, and the Qilin team lost to the Carefree team. But in the second round of the elixir competition, it was obvious that Chu Tianyu won. Yu Zuanjin looked at Zhou Daoyi. "Dean, there's nothing more to say, right? Yi Liangqin is Tianyu. Now that the mysterious heaven bead is about to condense, shouldn't we let him take it?" Zhou Daoyi frowned and said nothing. Vice Dean Zhu stepped forward and picked up one of the elixirs refined by Mayan. "Strange, why haven't I seen this elixir before? This breath is not recorded in any ancient book. What elixir is this?" Elder Song said impatiently, "Is it interesting to ask what elixir it is at this time? Even if it's a rare elixir, can it change the fact that it's only a 6th-grade elixir?" Mayan chuckled. "Isn't the real effect of the so-called elixir more important than its grade? Or do you think that a 7th-grade restoration elixir and a 7th-grade golden crow elixir are of the same value? What a joke. The golden crow elixir is the best even among the 7th-grade elixirs. Do you want to say that your 6th-grade elixir is more valuable than the golden crow elixir? Mayan, whether it's valuable or not, will know after taking it." With that, she turned to look at all the people present and finally hooked her finger at Zhu Chongliang of the Qilin team. Zhu Chongliang looked around and pointed at himself blankly. "Me? Mayan, you. Come here." The girl's words were concise and her expression was languid. But those enchanting peach blossom eyes and that pleasant voice seemed to have a magic power that made people unconsciously want to revere her. Zhu Chongliang didn't even think about it as he eagerly ran to her. "May I ask what Miss Jun's instructions are?" Before he could finish his last word, a fragrant pill was stuffed into his mouth. Then, a force slammed into his chest, and he swallowed it with a gulp. Zhu Chongliang had yet to react even after the pill entered his stomach. His face was filled with confusion. Jun Mayan fed him the elixir that she refined. What kind of pill was that? Could it be that the captain wanted to poison him because he had stolen the title of Yap Liangqin? Just as Zhu Chongliang's imagination was running wild, Elder Song saw this and laughed out loud. "Jun Mayan, are you stupid? What does letting Zhu Chongliang eat the pill you refined prove? Even if his spiritual power immediately increases, even if his muscles and bones are tempered, does that prove that your Dan is better than the Golden Crow Dan?" Everyone present was also confused. Elder Song was right. The effects of most medicinal pills could not be seen in a short period of time. Furthermore, even if he could see its effects, how could he prove that it was better than the Golden Crow pill? Just then, Zhu Chongliang's expression suddenly changed, and he exclaimed, "Oh my God!" Everyone was startled by his sudden cry. Duan Wenbin was about to ask him what's wrong. He saw Zhu Chongliang suddenly sit cross-legged on the ground, and the spiritual power of his whole body began to operate crazily. Immediately after, the spiritual power inside and outside the hall all rushed towards his dantian. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.